Today, I'm honored to introduce you to my dear friend, Jordan Lips, an incredible father to a ridiculously cute young girl with another on the way, amazing husband, dog lover, and world-class nutritionist and strength coach. Jordan is one of the most kind, humble, intelligent, and nuanced individuals I've ever met. We met for the first time at a coffee shop in New York City nearly 10 years ago, and I've been blessed to watch him become a truly incredible man. Jordan is one of the greatest coaches in the world, and I'm beyond blessed to have him here with me today. Jordan Lips, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, man. That is quite a bit to live up to. So let's see how I do.
Dude, so before we start, who are you?
Yeah, I am verbatim what you said. World's great. No, I'm a coach and a father, a nutritionist. I enjoy, working with people one-on-one with a wide range of health pursuits, from building muscle to running, and cardio has been a pursuit that I'm sure we'll talk about today. Started off more in the hypertrophy space, helping people build muscle in a time efficient manner, but have certainly broadened my scope of what I'm interested in these days.
What misconceptions do people have about you?
Oh, well, I think you at some point had said, oh, I always thought of you as the hypertrophy guy.
I did.
Or as the maximizing hypertrophy guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a misconception or just a prior conception, or a conception in need of updating. Because I was certainly that at some point in my life, but that might be a misconception. I think I'm very interested in, I don't want to use fancy, unnecessary terminology like maximizing hypertrophy, but building lots of muscle. I'm very interested in that, but almost paradoxically, because learning everything I can learn about maximizing muscle growth can help me be lazy with it. It's if I can learn every way to do it in the most effective way, I can also figure out how to do it really well in a short period of time. And so by learning everything there is to know about how to maximize muscle growth, I can also take principles from that and help people do it in an hour a week, 90 minutes a week, 40 minutes a week. And so I might take certain courses and put out certain content and consume other people's content that is in that space of optimizing, maximizing, but I'm not interested in that at all for myself, nor am I interested in helping others do that. Although nothing against that. That's just not where my passion is.
Yeah. I think the reason that I thought that was just because for a long time, the majority of your content was around muscle growth. That's just what I associated you with. But I feel like, especially recently in the last few years, much more diversified content, much more whether it's running, cardio. You've always spoken about nutrition as well, but I think from the training perspective, I mostly saw hypertrophy, muscle growth.
I think I've always been someone who, I don't know how this will come off, but I'm not interested in diminishing returns. And I'm in school, I would have been happier working less hard for a decent grade than really hard for a great grade. And that's not something I'm saying is you should do or your children should do. And if you're listening to this, that's not the way to go about life. But it has helped me figure out how to be efficient with things. And we're going to talk, I'm sure, a bit today about diversifying our interests and stuff. And that has allowed me to do multiple things pretty well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm hugely interested in how to maximize things, but not for the sake of maximization, for the sake of minimum effective dose or, somewhere between minimum effective dose and maximizing. And that's always been, funny. I went to my best friend's wedding 2 days ago and saw people from high school. This is a high school friend. And a kid came up to me who was incredibly smart. And I didn't really interact with him in high school at all. And he was just sitting down with me. He's like, hey, what are you doing now? How are you doing? I follow you on social media. I have an idea of what you're doing. And after I just hey, this is kind of an idea of what I'm doing. He was like, I always thought you were incredibly smart in school and just didn't give a shit at all, And and I was like, it's funny that you say that, because that I'm channeled that as a superpower of I don't want to spend my entire life working out, but I really care about the benefits. So how can I do it well enough to extract a high percentage of those benefits, so I have other time to be a father, have other hobbies, help people grow my business, etc.
What's something you used to believe but you no longer do?
I'm sure most people, when they're asked this, they answer with something that they didn't do a 180 on, that they've evolved their opinion on. Certainly my takes on plant protein and total protein requirements for people to get to a certain place in terms of health and fitness have changed. I think I grossly under respected or didn't respect the power of plant protein enough was certainly someone who would have prescribed a gram per pound of protein to anybody looking to build muscle without really having a good understanding of where that diminishing return is. Where can we get the most of the benefits in a more practical manner? So I've certainly updated my thoughts around protein intake, and in the same breath, updated my take on training volumes. And I don't even like using the word volume. I just think time requirement, time allocation per week, what people can do in a short period of time and how to do it has certainly become, again, I've said that 3 times now, that's like been a big passion of mine. If you do things well and in a certain way, you might not have to do as much as you think, and you can extract, again, a large percentage of the benefits in less time.
Mitch is stoked right now. Mitch is vegan. And I hear the power of plant protein. He's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's certainly something that I just didn't, I don't know, maybe research has gotten better over the last 15 years for sure, but I certainly wasn't someone seeking out that information, and had quite a bit of bias back in the day.
I feel like when you and I were coming up in the industry, there was a huge bias against plant protein. I don't even feel like there was. There was like, plant protein is not as good. And it's still prevalent today that people still tout that nonsense. But when we were up and coming, like, that was a major thing that even people who were very highly researched and seemingly unbiased were touting that. How specifically has your view changed in terms of total protein intake, and then also understanding plant protein as part of that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, getting a bit out of my own echo chamber. I think just getting out of just following people with alternative viewpoints who will look at similar research and actually point out different things. And from a protein perspective, again, my whole mindset would have been around how to maximize muscle growth. And if you even asked me today, if it's my life goal, like who needs to maximize muscle growth? I'd say at the very least, the people whose life depends on it, someone whose livelihood depends on it, a pro bodybuilder, maybe a pro athlete. Yeah, go higher than the recommendation I might give for a general person. Go higher, because there's probably a non-zero benefit to doing so. But through a perspective shift of maybe we don't need to, I'm going to drop arbitrary percentages here to make a point. If there's a 5% benefit from going from, like, I'll use pounds, like 0.7 grams to 1 gram per pound, but like you lose a whole host of people who try to do that and they find it unsustainable. It's like, that's probably a better recommendation at 0.7 grams per pound. So finding, again, this new perspective of like, yeah, like we can do XYZ thing to maximize, but we are going into diminishing returns if we do so. And so for the vast majority of people, can we get them into X ballpark, which, if we're quoting, might be somewhere between 1.2 and 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So 1.6 to 0.8 grams per pound ballpark for the vast majority. If not, there are some people out there, very smart people, who would say actually at 0.8 or 1.6 grams per kg, you are maximizing it. I might leave my door open of like, there's a non-zero benefit to more, maybe, but I'm not interested in, if I can get someone to get, 80, 90% of their available protein related muscle growth benefits at an amount that they can do without it taking over their lives, and they can focus other percentage of their bandwidth on things that are important, like fiber, and plant diversity and just dietary diversity. I'd rather people do that.
So what is the minimum threshold that you would have someone shoot for in an ideal world for protein?
It depends. Is that person interested in an amount of muscle that goes beyond a health pursuit, right?
No. Just like
1.2, 1.2. If they 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kg, and anywhere in there. And so if we're talking about, let's say it's 0.7, if it's a 150-pound person, that is 95 grams of protein. 105 grams of protein. So 105 up to, I didn't do the maths. That'd be 0.7. Sorry, 0.6 would be 90 grams of protein.
Yep. Okay.
So 90 to 110.
Which is very realistic.
Very realistic. And I'd rather people get to that point and then use your other brain power on increasing fiber intake and eating a more diverse diet.
Yeah.
That rather than, and if you want to go higher and if people enjoy going higher, and if you hear me say, hey, there's a non-zero benefit to going higher, go higher, no problem. Not at the expense of fiber, not at the expense of your mental health, not expense of consistency, not at the expense of fiber type diversity, plant diversity intake. So it's fine. People have a finite amount of resources, mental resources they can put towards stuff. And if you can get people to like where they're getting the vast majority of a certain benefit, and then they can focus on another thing. And ironically, it's like exactly what we're going to talk about today from an exercise perspective. It's like, let's get people to that 1.4 grams per kg protein. Let's get people to at least 25 grams of fiber. Let's get people eating, 20 to 30 different plants a week. And if you want to take the benefits of fiber to the next level, or the benefits of protein to the next, you want a little bit of that extra benefit, go ahead, push that a little bit higher. But can we get all of those things up to a point where you're doing them pretty well?
What's your favorite sources of fiber?
Yeah, I am a shill for Big Bean.
Let's go.
I owe is how I feel. I told my wife the other day, I was like, I owe for years of bean slander. I was like, I owe for years of bean slander. I mean, you know what's funny is beans are interesting because I think in American culture, we are taught like, okay, you have a protein on the plate, you have a plant on the plate, and fruit or vegetable, and you have like a starch on the plate, and people struggle to incorporate beans into that kind of heuristic because it's like, what is a bean? Like, where is a bean taking up the place on my protein? It's not that high in protein. Is it taking up the place of the fruit and vegetable? I thought fruit and vegetables are important. Is it my starch? Well, it's protein, right? And it's all of them. And so it's so good, but at the same time, it's hard to implement into that. I say simplistic, although quite helpful for a lot of people. If I teach some of my clients to start building meals in a similar fashion. But beans, like, where do beans fit into that? And they're just like so great at two different things that it's hard to even know where to put them. I think they fall by the wayside in people's diets.
Dude, I love that. What kind of beans do you cook them yourself? Do you get pre-prepared beans? What do you do?
Yeah. So I don't cook them myself, but I'd like to. All beans, black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas. We eat a lot of hummus in the house.
Oh, let's go.
Edamame, amazing. My daughter loves edamame.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day about her nutrition has been carried by like single foods that have like made us like super proud. And she has had an edamame phase where now she like will take the whole thing and rip the beans out herself.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Edamame is king.
Yeah,
edamame
it's amazing.
Is incredible.
Totally.
Do you get like pre-packaged ones and then you just heat them up in the microwave, or what do you get?
I've been doing canned ones, and since my daughter likes them, we've been going definitely low sodium.
Okay.
And even if we get full sodium, I would personally rinse them. I just don't find that extra salt does anything for my enjoyment of them. So I'll rinse it off just a little bit lower sodium, but
got it.
To each their own.
So it's just like plain beans.
Yeah. Beans and rice, beans and, one of the things is I'm not a vegan. I'm not 100% plant-based, but I'd like to move in that direction as much as I can without sacrificing mental health and ease.
Why is that?
The health benefits are just, if you swap out red meat for a plant protein, it's just like astronomically, a very simple choice to improve overall health outcomes.
Yeah.
So let's say some of the ways I've been doing that is just like if we're making ground meat or something, it's like, hey, if I would have had 150 grams of this or 100 grams of this, I'm just going to half that and replace it with beans.
Smart.
And just mix it up together. Lentils also just incredibly love lentils. And so if just swapping 50% of that ground meat and mixing it up, and just you don't even that's not even a sacrifice. You don't even notice it. And all of a sudden your fiber's gone up, your protein stayed fine. And I think one of the ways that's helped me do that is actually by not being so panicked about getting a gram per pound protein.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, instead of I need 50 grams of protein at this meal, it's like I'm fine with 35, 40 grams of protein at this meal, and bang, I can have those, those calories, so to speak, to spend on beans, let's say.
It's way more cost effective too.
Totally.
Like
beans
wildly more cost effective, and like the added fiber. I mean, people really struggle with their fiber. It's just it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy with beans. And for me, I'm not the biggest the canned beans, they're fine, but like I like a little bit more flavor. Recently, I've been getting, and it's higher sodium, but I don't care, to be honest with you.
You check your blood pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's called Mina's. Mitch, is that what it's called? Mina's? Is that the one that I've been getting? It's. I just go to the grocery store. It's like in this it's like in this package. And it's like pre-seasoned, pre-spiced, and like
the black little black packs. Yeah, I've seen you. I was meant to ask you about those,
dude.
Oh, incredible!
So good.
Also, there's I don't want to talk specifically about brands here, but like there's a brand of bean pasta. I think bean pasta is just like when people talk about. I don't know. It's a mini side rant on like ultra processed foods. Like some ultra processing is incredible.
Oh my
god,
god,
bean pastas are an incredible hack, and there is a company that makes bean pasta 100% from lupini beans. Right? Lupini beans are a joke. I just like don't understand where has lupini beans PR team needs to like hire, I don't know, like protein powder or something. PR team, because it's insane. So there's one company that makes lupini bean pasta. It's just out of lupini bean and some like textures to make it. And it's fine, and I like it. And it's like 20 grams of protein and 15 grams of fiber per serving. It's just a joke. but the texture, you can tell it's a bean pasta, right? And so there's another company that I saw in your pantry that said, okay, I'm guessing this is how this happened. I don't know. My imagination saw that brand and was like, man, lupini beans are great, but like that texture's not amazing. So like, we'll go 50-50. It's like 50% like durum or semolina flour or whatever, like Italian, like classic pasta ingredient, and then 50% lupini beans.
Yeah.
And so it's like 21 grams of protein, like 9 grams of fiber per serving.
Amazing.
So it's a joke. And the texture is unbelievable. I've made it for people and they just don't know that it's there. And my daughter absolutely loves it. So if she's like, what are we having for dinner? She's like, tata, which is like pasta.
Yeah.
Whatever. She can have regular pasta too. I'm just saying this is a good way to see parents out there sneaking in some fiber and some protein.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
Have you had the edamame pasta?
No.
It's super good. Like,
it's like a spaghetti shape.
It's spaghetti.
It's
like spaghetti. It's spaghetti shape, but it's made out of edamame.
I haven't seen
and
that.
It's like 40 grams of protein or something, like stupid high protein and ridiculously high fiber as well. Yeah. Huge fan of that. So before we get more into fitness stuff and as you said, your age of mediocrity, which I want to discuss, I would love to hear from your perspective about the first time we met. Just how that came to be, what the meeting was like when we first met, and then what's happened since, because it's been pretty incredible from my perspective to watch, but I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't want to be too long-winded, but these are like 3-hour podcasts, so I'll let it rip a little bit, but I'll keep it concise. I was born on I came out of college and wanted to go to law school. Told my parents I'll take a year off. I took the LSATs, was like, hey, I'm ready, we can do applications, but I'm going to take a year off. I'm burnt out, which was a code for I have no idea this is what I want to do. And so there was a local gym and I had some acquaintances there. And I was like, let me go see if I can get a job there. And I was going to work the front desk and just like chill and just like do nothing for a second. And one day somebody's client didn't show up. And so the boss was like, hey, Jordan, like, you're going to train this guy. And I was like, no credentials, nothing or whatever.
You worked out though.
Yeah, it worked out. I've been working out myself. Totally. And I didn't think I needed to get a career in this year off. I said, I just want to get a job, have some money and think about what I want to do. First day that trainer did not show up and he had like 8 appointments in the morning and I coached all 8 of those people. And my boss walked over and handed like a whatever the cash was for that job. And I was like, I'm not doing anything else but this. I was like, that is this. So personal trained there for 5 years or so, had an amazing time. You don't know him personally, but he's also a big West Side guy, the guy who owned the gym. He's a big West Side guy. He speaks super fondly of Louis, like went out there, has all these crazy stories of being out there, had the world record bench for a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And was a real workhorse. And so he was a real workhorse. And he was somebody, you and I were talking just now in the kitchen about that. The people who probably do the best in our space are treating it like maybe as seriously as someone who's in like a maybe, I want to be careful how I say it. Like in a more, if someone's like, hey, I'm going to be a doctor, like there's a certain requisite amount of work that you understand that person's going to have to do. And it's going to be really hard and they're going to have to work super hard. And someone says the word personal trainer, it doesn't come with that same, this person's personal trainer, they have the appetite for that level of work. And so he did. And so he instilled that in me of like, you're going to work really freaking hard at this thing. And you're going to take it very seriously. Personal training is not some throwaway job. So I appreciate that was instilled in me for a long time. We did some crazy stuff at that gym that I don't, whatever. We make mistakes,
Of course.
Let me fast forward. Ultimately, we had a good bit of business, a couple of friends of mine, and we wanted to be owners as well. And for whatever reason, didn't work out. And so we decided to leave and so open our own place. And so we did. And this was right before COVID. And it turns out within 24 hours of that decision, I realized I didn't want to own a gym. That like owning a gym wasn't the progression, right? It wasn't. It wasn't like, oh, you're a trainer, and then you get so many clients that you have trainers under you, help you, and then you go own the gym. And it felt like a natural progression, but it was a different job. It was more, managing others.
Yes.
And that's fine. And some people are really good at that. And I was not enjoying that as much. I wanted to do it. I wanted to coach.
You love coaching.
Totally.
Owning a gym is not the same thing.
And I had just, when you coach people in person, they always ask questions about nutrition as well. And you're like, you're in the middle of a workout. And it's like, realistically, what we need to do is sit down outside of this and talk. And then we need to sit down outside of our sessions periodically. And so I started doing that and started building some of the back end online stuff. And I started to get excited about getting some online clients. And I got a couple of online clients while this was happening. So it was already, the seed was planted in my head. But we had invested time and money into this new space, and I was in a real weird place, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, I have this gym, I have my in-person business, I have like 3 online clients, but something about that process. I had spent the first 5 years training people and talking about nutrition while we're training. And all I wanted to do was like, it had just become abundantly clear that we need to spend more time on this. We need to talk. We need to not while we're in the middle of a set, talk to you about your diet. And so I was able to do that with my one-on-one clients at the time. And I was really excited about it. I was like, finally, I'm getting a chance to do that. And people were finding me with a similar goal. And so there's that relationship of somebody finds you because they already know what you do. So you have kind of a head start. Whereas like if you're a personal trainer, it's a bit more on geography. It's like people in your area, right? It's not necessarily they sought you out exactly because you are this way. So sometimes that happens. Anyway, long story short, pretty torn, pretty big fork in the road for me. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. My best friend was the guy who we owned it together. My roommate and my best friend, and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, reached out to you. I don't know exactly what she said, but we could summarize it as, hey, like my boyfriend's going through a tough spot. You think you talked to him, And you guys went back and forth. And one day, my wife was like, hey, we're going in the city to meet my brother for his birthday. We're going to go like Natural Museum or something like that. And I was like, oh, cool. Sounds great. And so we were going to meet them just at a coffee shop, get a cup of coffee, and then head over. And I, of course, had followed you, like knew who you were. And as we walked in, we went to get a cup of coffee, and I saw your videographer at the time, and I was like, I was like, Jen, I think I knew you lived in New York City at the time too. I was like, I think I recognize, that's Jordan's videographer. He said, he's working on something. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Jen's like, oh, that's interesting. And I just like got an espresso, and then like went and sat down. I didn't think one thing of it. Just assumed that this is like he's just working on stuff, And then lo and behold, you guys had set up a chance for us to talk, and we did. For a long time. And I told you yesterday, I was like, I had already had like a double espresso. And then when you got there, I was like, waitress, there's no waitress. But we had quite a bit more caffeine, and we talked for hours. And I never forget. I was like, here's a guy who's got so much to do, giving his time to me, like didn't ask me, how much time do we have? Or we have this much time. You were like super open-ended with your time. And I really, really appreciated that. And you did what I think the best therapists and coaches will do, which is you were a good listener. I don't know if I can point to a single thing you said, but I know that not that you didn't say anything at all. Like I'm saying, I don't look back at that conversation and think, oh, Jordan said that and that changed my life. But I do know for a fact that sitting down and having that chat changed my life. And that was a turning point for me. And I sold my portion of the gym. My girlfriend and I moved out of the area, which felt like something I needed to do. I felt like very integrated into the environment, like in the neighborhood. Every time we go in somewhere, and I knew someone who knew someone, and I kind of felt like with this, I needed some sort of a clean break. So we moved to Austin, and just gave up quite a bit of income for the time being out of the just faith that the online thing would work out. And I will say, stars aligning in a dark way that COVID was kind to online businesses. And so I can appreciate that this wasn't like I just got in there and I was the best of the best. Like people were becoming more comfortable working out at home. They wanted to work out at home. They were spending more time on their computers, and Zoom became super normal. And so, it did align quite a bit there. And so, for a while, that's why I did online coaching. And I don't want to make it seem like it's just, you're run of the mill online coaching, but I think people have a general understanding of what that looks like.
And now you're killing it, dude. Now it's from my perspective, it was, I'll say it this way. I've met with many people over the years who were, when I was young, I was able to meet with some incredible people who helped me along the way. And I was always like, what can I do? And they would always just say, pay it forward. So for me, it's like, I want to meet with people who are young and up and coming, or maybe even not young in age, but young in experience in the industry, and they just want to improve. I've met with many people. Very few have actually listened and then fucking worked hard to make it happen. And you are on that short list of people who have worked outrageously hard, have put in a tremendous amount of time, effort, and energy into helping people for free to grow your business. And now, you told me yesterday about how business is going, and it's incredible. And I'm so proud of you. And it's really amazing to see. And I love that Every day you're showing up, you're still helping people for free. It's the same thing with working out and fitness. It's like you get your steps in, you strength train a couple times a week, you drink your water, you have your fiber free. It's like you try and get good sleep. It's the basics done over and over and over. And most people struggle to stay consistent. Same thing with coaches. Like they might be a great coach, but when it comes to the online world and posting content on a daily basis or consistent basis, doing the right things, very few coaches actually stay consistent. And you are one of the very few who have, and it's been wonderful to watch that growth.
Thanks, dude. And I don't know if we met where you were in your Gary V Chronicles. Like, I just don't know where you were on that journey. But there was something that Gary V and you had both said, and it was, I don't even know if what I'm about to say makes sense as a sentence, but I'll just tell you like what I think it means and what it was like supposed to mean. It was a scale, the unscalable.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, I don't even know if that like, I don't know if that's just like the ultimate doubling down on a buzzword that like sounds great, or if it's like actually means something. But what it actually means is, at the time when I was first starting out, like, and coaches out there who are watching this, if you're just starting out or you're trying to grow, you know, you have whatever millions of followers and millions of DMs, and you still find time. I know you can't answer everyone, but I know you do your best to like still be present and still, you know, be a voice and still be able to communicate with people. But, you know, when you had 1,000 followers, you could have 30-minute conversation with somebody in DMs, right? You could do things, you could go that extra mile. You know, I answer I'm not, whatever, this is not like a touting me a thing. I'm just saying, like, as of right now, I answer every single email. If you answer every single DM, I'd never leave a DM on Reddit. If you DM me, I DM you back.
That's amazing.
Like, that can't go on forever.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, there's a person who, you're an amazing coach, but somebody might want a person to be more involved than you're able to give. And so you might see somebody like Jordan or somebody like me, and you're like, oh, you know, I don't have the business that they have right now, but you have maybe the time to go the extra mile for people. And that's something that I immediately decided I have to do that. It's the only way. It's funny, you can frame it like the only way to beat you is to do what you can't. And you're an amazing coach, but the person who has 5 clients can do way more for their 5 clients than you can do for your 1 million followers or whatever. So that was something really meaningful to me. I was like, I can do way more for these people than Jordan can, let's say. And even if that's true or not, that was like my, you know, story I would tell myself.
It is true.
Yeah, it is true. Whether it's true or not, it fired me up to go that extra mile. I was like, nobody's gonna do that for them. And, you know, whatever those things are that you feel like are the extra mile for your people, like, do that, because there are people out there that you might look up to that aren't doing that. Can't feel they can't do that, you know? And so that's a good opportunity for you to get a win that they can't do.
100%. I feel like this applies to everything. My brain goes to fitness, where it's like scaling the unscalable, just doing the things that most people aren't willing to do. And that doesn't mean going like Goggins hard. What that really means is just staying outrageously consistent with the basic things that are good for other people as well. So like for me, when I'm thinking about fitness, most people automatically go to like, well, what supplements should I take? And like, what's like the most advanced program that like I can, or they'll be like, I want the vibrating plate. And like, that's whatever. If you want that, great. But like, also you should be doing other shit. Like that's not going to take you to the next, the vibration plate is not going to take you to the next level. But everyone wants the supplements, the vibration plate, all the technology. And it's the people who see the best results are the ones who stay consistent doing the most basic things over and over and over again for years and years and years and years. Same thing with coaches. And whether that's making content, answering DMs, replying to comments, that's the thing. It's over and over and over again. You just do that.
Do you feel, I've had fears. First time I was supposed to be on the podcast, we couldn't make it work.
So
and you
sorry.
had posted something super nice on your story, and I got a lot of followers.
Good.
And a lot of DMs, welcome DMs, you know, hi, I came from Jordan's page, whatever. It was the first time I got so many DMs at the same time that I got that feeling of, oh, I don't know if I can answer everyone, or I don't know. This is the first time I felt like it was a burden, not in a negative way, but it was the first time I felt like I wanted to give more than maybe I was able to. And then do you feel that? I mean, because you are a scale the unscalable. This is you love coaching people. You were coaching your neighbor in jiu-jitsu in the garage the other day. Like, I know you love people, you love a more intimate thing, but do you wrestle with the fact that, I love more intimate, going deeper, but I also have a massive following that I can't do that with everyone?
Yeah. Every minute of every day, it sucks. It's like there's always a feeling of failure letting someone down because I'm not replying to their DM but essentially I have to pick the lesser of, I have to prioritize
Right.
is essentially what it is.
Totally.
And so it's like, okay, I could be in here and answer all these DMs and do all this, or if I'm doing that, that means I'm missing out on time with my daughters, time with my wife, time for like prioritizing my own health and fitness. And they're at a certain point, it's like either choice is going to have regret, but which one am I going to regret more? And so at this point in my life, missing out on spending time in the playroom with my daughters, I will regret that more, especially because I've already created so much content that like for almost any question that someone's asking, if they Google my name and type in the question or even go to AI, what would Jordan say about this? Like, you're going to get a pretty good response either from AI or you'll literally find a podcast, YouTube video, Instagram with that answer. I still regret and hate not answering every DM, but I only get this time with my kids once. So it's like, I've already put all that information out there. If you really want my thoughts, just put it in and you'll get the answer. And I'm going to go spend time with my kids right now.
Yeah. Where do you draw that? How do you draw that line? I'm sure that I don't even know what your phone could look like, right? Like what
devastating.
This unlimited. It's unlimited, yes. Right? And so there being no limit means you have to decide where that line is drawn. And I had that first moment. I'm not at a point at all where I feel actually at risk at not being able to answer everyone. I feel very confident I can do that. But it was the first moment of like, yeah, once I'm not able to answer everybody, there are going to be better coaches for you who's DMing me. There are going to be better people for you than me. And that was the first moment where I was like, oh, that's an interesting, full circle kind of moment.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you said, and this is your words, not mine. You said you are in your age of mediocrity. You said that to me in a voice memo before the first podcast. I was like, what are some things you might want to talk about? So I want to discuss what is your age of mediocrity, and let's sort of dive into it.
Yeah. This is something I've been thinking about quite a bit ever since I had my daughter. I think before I even begin going into this, my values are my values, and I'm not projecting. The listener might have different values, and I just want to share my perspective on things. So I don't want this to be this is his values. He thinks they're high and mighty. His values are better. They're not. You might find them interesting. You might resonate with some of it. You might disagree with some of it. It's purely from a thought-provoking perspective. So I will speak mostly from a first-person perspective, but I certainly don't mean to imply that my values should be yours.
So and what you're saying is that your values are superior.
I'm better than you. Yeah. And we'll talk about other ways to do things, of course. But let's get into it. Enough waffling. I feel like we're a bit in the era of people who want to do more than one thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly in my era of wanting to do more than one thing. I think people are out there and they're seeing strength training content, they're seeing resistance training content, they're seeing powerlifting content, they're seeing running. I mean, hybrid training, high rocks, plyometrics, mobility. Mm-hmm. There's all these things that one could do. And so there's all of a sudden a new, 5-10 years ago, it was like just trying to get people to lift weights. Mm-hmm. And now it's, I got to lift, I got to run, I got to do high rocks, I got to run a marathon, I got to do mobility, I got to do plyometrics because there was, plyometrics are cool. I love plyometrics. But it's, all the rage, bone health. And so I feel that way too. I want to do those things too. Right. And the thing that we have to reconcile, most of us, is that in order to do multiple things in real life time constraints, you probably won't be amazing at any of those things. Mm-hmm. I did a podcast with a good friend of mine, Brian Borstein, where we talked about a hypothetical scenario where you have 6 times a week, 45 minutes to exercise. So one day off, and then every other day you have 45 minutes. What would you do with your time? Given certain goals?
It's a good hypothetical.
And that's kind of what we're talking about here. And I got a lot of people messaging me saying that is a completely unrealistic time commitment and mm-hmm. that they don't have nearly that much time. And so, by the way, super fair. And said it in the podcast. It's possible. But it's just super duper fair. I didn't mean that at the time that's a totally normal amount of time. It's just super hypothetical. And listen, if you only have 3 times 45 minutes, it actually makes that thought experiment less fun because it's like way simpler what you do with 3 times 45 minutes. You're just like, hey, we should lift weights and do some cardio and you're done.
Yeah.
But if you have a little bit more time, we can talk about where I'd fit in sprinting or plyos or whatever. And that definitely got me thinking. If you're, again, using 6 times a week, 45 minutes, which could be more than you have, if you want to do more than one thing, you have to reconcile it. You won't be as amazing at any of those things as the fitness space or the people making content about it have made it seem like you should be. And I find that this is probably mostly happening. If I were to pick one very simple example, it's people who lift 3 or 4 times a week because they know that that's going to give them a lot of muscle and strength and health benefits. It's incredible for you. But now they hear that cardio is important too. And they're like, okay, I only have 3 or 4 blocks of time in my week to exercise. And so I know that 3 or 4 times a week is enough to get me on my way to my aesthetic goals, my muscle goals, the way I want to look, how strong I want to be. And now I'm going to do less than that. And so it's just people reconciling, I want to do more than one thing, but if I want to fit that into my time constraints, I'm going to have to do each of those things less. And then so I'm going to get less of those adaptations. And I see people wrestling with that, rightfully so. I wrestle with that. I used to train, people are doing this like posting like what happened in 2016. Have you seen
Oh yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
So ironically, 2016 is when I was my absolute biggest. This was my my absolute most muscular day on my life is December 2016. And I'm looking through and I'm like, do you know how you go back and you like, phones have been running out of space, like Apple just, you just run out of space. And so I delete all my pictures from like back in the day. But like, of course, the ones that have remained from 2016 are like selfies of how jacked I was at the time. I was training probably, 10 hours a week on one modality, right? Hypertrophy, muscle growth. I train less than 2 hours a week total for hypertrophy now. And we can have a cool conversation about how, I'm the biggest advocate for how little you need to train to get, muscular, we could put subjective words on it on how muscular and how strong, but you can do really well with a little bit of training. And I want to make sure we talk about that. But I'm training a whole lot less than I used to, and I've lost muscle. In the pursuit of people like, oh, are you losing muscle because you're doing more running? I'm like, no, I'm losing muscle. I train 3 times a week, 30 minutes. And I used to train 6 times a week for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so I've had to reconcile with, in order to make room for this new thing that I want to do that reflects an updated values at 35 years old as a dad, I'm going to have to do this other thing less. And I'm at a point now where I run 3 days a week. I lift 3 days a week. And my rate of progression at both of them is microscopic. It's if you squint, it's going upward, but that won't happen forever. And so, it's just been this idea of, well, what do I want to do with my time? And then what is my reality? And in my head, the equation looks like values. What are your values? Plus time constraints equals reality. And it's like, well, how much time do I have? What do I want out of exercising? And that's my reality. And yeah, right now I think I'm in a place where I'd like to do a few more things. I'd like to put a few more minutes a week to plyometrics. I'd like to play soccer once a week. I'd like to, you and I have had many talks offline about mobility training, and I think even if we've had, I have my thoughts on all of this, I'd like to devote some time to it because I can talk about it all I want, but I think that there's maybe something I don't know. And so I'd like to put some minutes to that, but I'm like, hey, where am I taking those minutes from?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm already barely getting better at running. I'm already like barely getting better at lifting, like fooling myself into getting better at lifting. The more things I add in, the less good I'll be at all of these things, provided I keep my time constraints. Right now my values are, I want to live a long, being a dad is just like changes absolutely everything. I want to be around for a long time, not just around like alive, but physically able, all of the cognitively there, physically there. And I want to be that for a long time, but I want to be around for a long time, but I also want to be around a lot of the time, right? So I want to be here for many years, but I also want to be here present with my daughters, with my family for a long time. So how do I train for longevity, right? And also do it in a short period of time? Well, here's how you do it. You accept you won't be amazing at any of it. You're not going to have a fitness account where you're the biggest guy. You're not going to be the fastest guy, the most mobile guy, but like, you'll be a generalist. And a generalist is not sexy on social media. You're not going to get a bunch of followers. You're not going to kind of maybe reach the heights for any of those single modalities that you had in your head at one point. Like I've had to mourn the physique I could have if I were to just spend my time training for hypertrophy. If I did 6 times a week, what do I do? I train whatever it is, like 5 total hours a week, let's say. If I put all 5 of those towards hypertrophy, I'd be more muscular. Put them all towards running, I'd be a better runner. So I've had to mourn those hypothetical dimensions, those versions of myself, right? And maybe not forever. You come to mind a lot, and that's why when you would ask me what I want to talk about, I'm like, actually, you're a perfect example of this because you, like me, I probably spent a good first 10 years of my lifting for one purpose, get as jacked as possible. And you probably spent your first 10 years, get as strong as possible. and you got so much of that adaptation. Like you took that to the nth degree. You were best in the world, right? You were top 0.01%. And now you can maintain a strength level far beyond what you'd need for activities of daily living and longevity with not very little, like, with relatively little effort in that field, correct, in that scope. And so I've just been thinking about, if you're the person who's going to do three different types of training, right? 3 different cardio, strength training, mobility, plyometrics, something like that. Is it better to do them all a little bit? And will you have fun doing that? That's where I kind of want to get to, is like, is that going to be fun? Because really, if you ask me what my goal is, I want to keep exercising forever. Mm-hmm. So will I have fun at my microscopic, potentially soon ending rate of progress? Or is progress or fun the vehicle that we use to stay engaged enough to do this for a long time? And would it behoove me to skew my time towards a certain thing enough to get better at it? You and I were talking about jujitsu off air, and it's like, could I lift a little bit, run a little bit, and then do jujitsu a bunch and enjoy getting better at it? And so is it, yeah, not better. The goal is to do it forever. So am I more likely to do this forever if I pick something that I'm a little bit more interested in, do it enough to get better, because that progress, that the results that come from it, they are a vehicle for me to keep showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, there's so many ways we can take this. One of the places that my brain goes is, it's really, there's something to be said for people want to do everything, but sometimes you had mentioned, like, I got very, very strong for years. And so now, like, I can put in relatively little effort and still maintain.
What's a deadlift for you? What's a deadlift?
I could deadlift 4 or 5 any day of the week.
Yeah, and that's way more than
I'd ever need.
Right.
Like, I could go in without a warm up set, just boom, good. And it would be like difficult, but I could do it.
Sure.
There's something to be said for, and you have to take fun into the equation. There is something to be said for specializing for like a 3 to 5 year period on one thing as your main thing, and doing that for like 10 to 12 years. So like, you have a 3 to 5 year window. I'm just going to go as hard as I can on strength/muscle. 3 to 5 year window, I'm going to go as hard as I can on running, cardio, whatever. 3 to 5 year window, I'm going to go hard on mobility or whatever. 3 to 5 year window, I'm going to go hard on jujitsu, whatever, rock climbing, whatever the fuck you want to do. And at the end of these 10 to 15 years, which is a long time, but at the end of these 10 to 15 years, you are going to have a base level of proficiency and expertise in each one that for the rest of your life thereafter, now, like, you're basically set. You can just do a little bit of each. And if you ever want to reach a more elite level, spend a few months and you're going to be very quickly back to close to where your peak was. The other side of that is like, is that fun? As you were saying, is it fun for you to just focus on that one thing for the 3 to 5 year window? Or is it more fun for you to have a little bit more variety and progress more slowly, but it's more sustainable for you because it's more enjoyable? I think this is sort of a very blanket statement, but the lens through which people can look at and say, all right, do I want to be hyper-focused, hyper-specialized for a longer period of time and then get very good at that one thing far beyond what I likely would be able to achieve if I am being more balanced in my approach? Or would I have more fun with maybe not making as much progress, definitely not nearly as quickly, but doing almost everything at the same time? I lean towards what you do right now, and that's how I program the inner circle. Like, I have every month, it's like strength programs combined with mobility within it. We have separate cardio, but then I also include, like, I have specialization programs. So it's like, if you would just want to do powerlifting, you could just do this program. If you just want to do I have just a glute building program. If you just want to focus on your glutes, here we go. That's it. And I think there's something to be said for both options. You just have to know yourself and say, like, which one will I be more happy with? Which one will I have more fun with? And who's to say you can't toggle back and forth? Maybe have 1 year where you just go all in on that one thing, and maybe you definitely wouldn't get as good of results if you did 3 to 5 years on that. But you do 1 year on one modality, Like that's going to be pretty wild in terms of how quickly you progress. I just think it's an interesting discussion to have and for people to be aware of. Like you could choose either one, and it's not like right or wrong. But since we are in this current era of I want to do everything, just be aware your rate of progress is going to be slower than if you just only focused on one. Then in the same breath, at the same time, if your main goal is health, longevity, and all that, you likely are better focusing on doing a little bit of everything rather than having that one singular focus because your health will likely be better off from including a little bit of everything than just only that like one single modality.
I would say it's a good moment to pause and just say that, a classic question is like, if I just lift and walk, am I still going to be healthy? Right? I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to pause and say, like, we're talking, ironically, our conversation began with like the lack of pursuit of optimization. And so to follow that thread here, like if you lift mostly, let's say you spend 85% of your exercise hours on lifting and you walk and you eat a nutritious diet and you maintain a healthy body composition, you get enough sleep, you don't drink too much alcohol, you don't smoke, you manage stress, like you're going to be mega healthy and you're going to live a super duper long time. And if you skew to running, and if you're like, hey, I'm a runner and I do a little bit of lifting, I do 4 days a week of running, I do 1 day of lifting, like, and you do that well and you're consistent with it, and you eat a good diet and you sleep well, like you're going to be mega healthy. Mm-hmm. So if you're out there and you're like, I hear these guys talking about, I got to kind of do everything. I feel not the burden, but I feel the kind of like the thing for me to do is a bit of everything because I'm agnostic about like a lot of different things. You might have a preference. Someone listening might be, I really like lifting and those adaptations I find really fun. Can I do a little cardio and can I walk and have a good diet and good body comp and live a super long time and have a healthy heart? Absolutely you can. And you can do that if you were 4 days a week jiu-jitsu, 1 day of lifting, 1 day of whatever, mobility. Like that person's going to be super healthy and in the top 1% of health and longevity. And so even though you and I are having this chat of if someone's completely agnostic, wants to, have a variety of training adaptations because they value that, they think that will help them live a long time, then great. Then I think that our conversation stands of like, well, we should diversify a little bit. But if you're someone's like, hey, I love one thing and I really like it, or maybe it's you really like it right now, right? You can be super duper healthy. Like like I have people in my group who lift 4 days a week. They're like, I lift and I walk. Am I good? I'm like, people ask me, are you technically on paper going to live as long a period of time if you do no cardio? Yeah, I think technically on paper, probably not. But like, dude, if you're lifting 4 days a week and you walk, 8,000, 7,000 to 10,000 steps, you're killing it. So I don't want today's chat to be to override what might be your personal preference, but maybe it sparks someone to think about reshuffling some of just a little bit of how they're spending their time and just think about what your values are. What do you want? And are you allocating your time in a way that reflects what your priorities are?
Yesterday, you were talking about how you get very competitive with yourself. How does that play into your fun, into what you choose to be doing? Like, I'm interested, like in your brain, how does your own competition versus yourself, or maybe even other people that I'm unaware of, like how does your competitive nature play into all this?
Yeah, I'm paradoxically, or that's probably not even the right word, but I find interestingly competitive with my running, and very flow state playground with my lifting. Like I could just go down to my basement gym, and I follow my program, but like if I feel like pulling an audible and doing something else, like I totally do. And if I don't progress for a month on something, and then I grab an extra rep, like I'm pretty stoked, I'm pretty happy. And if we travel, like I did a workout this morning for running. I did the workout that I had on my program verbatim. I did it to the T, but like if it was a lifting day and I was going to work out, I would have just popped into the gym and, got to work at it and just like did something. So I do find that a little bit interesting of like, why am I competitive with this thing and not this other thing? And I think, I don't think it's overly complicated. I think I quite enjoy the act of lifting, and early on with cardio, that's interesting. Yeah. I like lifting, and I don't like cardio. That's where I started. That's where my brain started. It's like, you don't like doing the running. So you've wrapped it in this performance pursuit to distract you from the act of doing it, and so that you do it. With lifting, I don't feel that way, but there's like an underlying thing of like, well, do you not like the running because you're not good at it? Because I'm not good at it. For like a person who's like a relatively fit. I mean, I work with Alex Viata, who we've worked with, and you've had on podcasts. I've had on podcasts. Savant, psychopath, love Alex.
Yeah, genius.
First time we went out running, we did like a VT1 test.
Yeah.
So, VT1 test is like a ramp test. It's basically like running progressively harder and doing what's called a talk test, where you say like the Pledge of Allegiance. And Alex would make me record it for him so that we could identify kind of when I've gone above zone 2 or whatever. And the first time I said it, he was like, "Yeah, you're out of zone 2." Like the minute I started jogging.
How fast were you going?
No, like 12-minute mile no, or less for like 1 minute. Like it was 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And he's like, you're already done. He's like, stop the test. And so like I stink. I have asthma. I have like a vocal cord issue, or my vocal cords get like inflamed and I can't run. Like I'm terrible at running. Every sports team I've ever played on, if you're a former teammate of mine, you know what's funny? Like in high school soccer, like I was the only player who had to come out like multiple times per half, like every other kid's like playing a whole half. And I'm like, I do one run. I'm like, coach, I need a minute, And so I've always been not good at cardio. And so that's certainly been an undertone as to like why I've avoided it probably. And so now I'm very competitive with the running, but I think you would agree that I don't find running an aesthetic pursuit, right? I can't mask it in it's going to make me look better. And I can't shake the fact that part of the reason that I like lifting for the sake of it is that there is still a bit of, I will say this word, it's a loaded word, but there's still a little bit of ego. There's still a little bit of like, I know this helps me look a way that I identify with. And that probably will never go anywhere. And I don't judge it anymore. It's there, right? No problem. But running, there is none of that. Like that's not going to make me, running to lose weight is kind of a non-starter. Running while being more active and running while losing weight is a fine plan, but the idea of I run to lose weight is not a great plan. So there's like, and I don't even want to lose weight. So
it's a pretty shit plan.
Yeah, it's a pretty shit plan. Okay. And I don't want to lose weight. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out another, and I'm not yet a person who's like, oh, get out there, get the runner's high, like sometimes you're in a nice area. It's a nice day, like sometimes. And so for me, wrapping it in a performance goal and working with a coach and learning everything there is to know about it and getting very nerdy. I joked on my story the other day that I'm way nerdier and take this way more seriously than I am good at this. Like there's a chasm between how much I know about running and how well I can run. I mean, it's astronomical. And so, yeah, I think that's been super fun. I think you would agree that for somebody out there who's maybe wavering with their relationship with fitness and lifting and whatever it is, lifting's interesting because performance, like bodybuilding, isn't the thing I mean when I say try a performance pursuit. I don't necessarily mean that, although I think there are some similarities. But I think if you are the person who's getting to a point where it's like very much my relationship with lifting is how it affects the way I look, and that's very, very important to me. And actually, I kind of want to back away from that. Then I think bodybuilding's not what I would recommend.
Worst. Yeah, it would be the worst thing you could do.
Be the worst version of applying this here. But finding some sort of performance pursuit, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, run a race. I've never been that person with my lifting, and for the first time ever, I was like, I'll probably do a powerlifting meet at some point in my life. Like I found a much more enjoyment in the pursuit when I'm focused on something other than the way I look, let's say.
That makes total sense. For me, I worked with Alex for a while. He was really my introduction to more higher level cardio-based training, and I hate it. But you know what I realized is I hate it when I'm really pushing. Like when I'm really trying to progress and get faster and shave seconds, I hate it. It sucks. Whereas with strength training, when I'm pushing it, I love it. And I think the way that I've broken it down is different types of training have different types of pain. And strength training, the pain is relatively brief. You've got a couple reps in, you get to the last few reps of the set, it's difficult, but you sort of feel like a badass. You're like, yeah, like 3 reps has struggled, grinded. Okay, cool, done. Now I get a 3-minute rest. Whereas with cardio, when you're pushing it for like 25, 35, 45 minutes. It's a constant pain. And depending on what you're doing, you're not like at a point where like I'm about to fail, but you're constantly uncomfortable. It is just a long duration of being like, this is really, I have to keep in my head being like, keep going, keep going. So for me, for my own cardio now, like you saw last night, I went on the treadmill for an hour.
Yeah.
I put the Office on.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I was significantly below any point of discomfort.
Yep.
I was just like, I get to watch a funny show and I get the majority of health benefits in, but like the moment that I can no longer pay attention to what I'm watching because it's so difficult, nope, fucking sucks. Hate it. Whereas lifting is different. Like I love and I like the mobility stuff. Anything that's a very high intensity for a brief duration, love it. But if it's a moderately more difficult endeavor for a longer duration, oh my gosh, dude, it's horrible.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I ran my first marathon. I ran the Philly Marathon in what month is it now? Maybe I ran it in November.
It's February now.
I think I ran it in November. And I'm running a 10K this weekend. And the 10K is, in my opinion, a much harder event. Marathon is hard in its own way. Trust me, I'm not just like, dude, I'm not like I've said before, I'm not that good at this stuff. And the marathon was hard, and I cramped for 10 miles, and it was brutal. I don't make it seem like a marathon is easy. But I know when that 10K starts, you're running at a pace that immediately is painful.
Yeah.
And even so today, when you're in a taper for a race, or the closer you get to a race, the greater specificity you do your workouts with. So my pace has become very close to race pace. Volume comes down, so it's not super tiring, but you're just practicing training your body to run at this pace. And even a couple of minutes, I'm like, this sucks. This already hurts. But I know it's funny that that's how you feel about cardio, because I feel the same way, but I feel grateful for that change. I think one of the first things that I will do, or that Alex did with me, is, let's say you take somebody and they've never done cardio before. One of the things of many that you want to do with them is break that barrier of time spent uncomfortable. So let's say you're starting with like 3 by 2 minutes of running, right? There's a million ways to do this, so don't take this as the only way, but I really want to get someone to increase the length of that single interval. Not at the expense of everything else, but I'm looking at that as a variable. So can I get this person to like a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minute interval in this while I'm working with them, to break through this idea of, there's a panic response in the body when you get out of, let's say you get out of zone 2 and your heart rate really starts to ramp up, your breathing starts to speed up. And a lot of people immediately think, oh, I need to stop. And to break that barrier of, actually, I don't, I can withstand more discomfort for longer than I thought, has been really awesome for me. And that belief of like, as things get really hard, just saying, that's okay. I know I can hold that level of discomfort has been one of the things I really have enjoyed about cardio. But it certainly was, I'll never forget the first time, Alex, we were like doing 4 by 6 and he was like, cool, we're going to do 2 by 10. I was like, no way, 10 minutes. Like, what am I going to do for 10? What's my brain going to do for 10 minutes? And I think that was a nice shift in oh, actually, I can withstand that level of pain for that long. So that's been something I've enjoyed, even though, yeah, it sucks.
So this brings up a really good topic that I wanted to get into. Number one, what is the biggest mistake that people make when they first get into running? And then what strategies should someone who can't run a continuous mile yet use to get started?
Yeah, the first one that jumps to mind is frequency is important. And you don't need to, first of all, something Alex would have told me is like no sloppy runs. Like, so not running to a point where you're so tired, right? And what I'd be worried about is when you get so tired, one of the things that when people begin lifting, one of the reasons you might not immediately go super close to failure on certain things is they don't have the neurological efficiency to take a squat with good technique close to failure. I mean, as they get reasonably close to failure, there will be technical breakdown. Certain things of their technique will break down because they're not subconsciously, they haven't worked on, they're not efficient at that movement pattern. With running, it's the same thing. And you might think running's not a complicated thing, but slight adjustments in your gait, overstriding, whatever it is. And again, none of these things I don't want to be like, fear mongering about, but if you do too much and you do sloppy, you're more likely to get injured. So no sloppy runs in the beginning. I want you feeling good after runs. I want you walking in between. I want quality. People need to think of running more as a skill, and people think of it as like a thing everyone can do. Everyone can run. You can run, but you can't, right? Like you can't yet, and you want to practice in the beginning in a lower stress environment. So even if it's 1 minute slow jog, 2 minutes of walking, and you build that up, I want quality runs. I don't want these runs to be hard. I want you to treat it like a skill that you're learning how to do. I don't want you close to failure. I don't want you getting, kind of flopping around by the end. Your technique starts to break down. I don't want that. That's how you can get injured. And so I like having a decent amount of frequency, but easier workouts in the beginning. And then I think people should really embrace cross training. I mean, if you're not like an obligate runner, if you're not like, I want to be a runner, or I have a race I'm going to run, like, then running's not that unique as in terms of like a health adaptation. So do a little bike, make friends with an alternate modality as well. I'm not saying, I like running. A lot of people like running. It has it's romanticized a little bit. We get outside, we get, so I get people like running. I get it. But make friends with at least one other modality in your life. It could be even incline walking, a bike, a rower, elliptical, stairs. We both have an echo bike that we absolutely loathe, but it's a way for you to continue working on. I remember in the beginning, Alex and we did running, like I just mentioned, where it was like a little bit easier, more skill focused, not as close to failure. And they were like, dude, let's rip it up on the bike. He's like, I'm not worried. There's no skill. There's much lower skill component to an echo bike. It's like, but we need to get your underlying, aerobic adaptations up. It's like, in the meantime, as we learn the skill, you can push a bit harder on the bike. So make friends with at least one other modality and integrate it into your routine consistently at the very least, make sure you have it in case you're suffering a bit with lower limb impact related stuff. So I would say frequency, get out there and run more frequently. Don't make it too hard. It should feel relatively easy in the beginning. I want you to build that skill. I want your body knowing what to do. I don't want you super close to failure where you have technique breakdowns. And then make friends with another modality. Just pick anything. Pick something that's not running that you can push yourself much harder on an incline walk from day one with lower risk than pushing yourself really, really hard on a run. So in the beginning, it's like skill with the runs, stimulus with the cross training. And I think that those can work really well together.
That's really good advice. One of the reasons I never enjoy the Echo bike, like I never enjoy it. It's always awful. But one of the reasons I like it as a modality is because if I'm really sore from strength training or if I'm really sore from the mobility work I'm doing, and I also want to get cardio in, like going on a run or even an incline walk, like if my hamstrings are wrecked, dude, fuck that. That is awful. But I hop on the bike. I don't have to worry about ripping a hamstring. I don't have to worry about dealing with that pain. I can get that stimulus from a cardiovascular perspective without worrying about injury and without just feeling the extra pain of being wildly sore. I love that as a modality for that specific reason.
Yeah, it's a full body. It involves more muscles.
Yep.
So you're working your upper body and your lower body a little bit, and so you can, again, like you said, if you're sore in a particular area, then you can, rest assured that that area is probably not going to get wrecked,
unless it's your quads. Quads suck on that one.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I want to shift briefly, talk about lifting. When coaches say you need to lift heavy, how heavy do you actually need to lift to get stronger, build muscle, improve bone density, etc.? And is there a point of diminishing returns?
Yeah. So right now, what we know about building bone density is it seems that what's good for muscle is good for bone. And we don't have great research that says, oh, there's a very specific, unique type of stimulus for bone that from a resistance training perspective. And the reason I think that is, and I'll get to that in a second, but when it comes to building muscle, honestly, anything, practically speaking, I'd say anywhere in the 5 to 20 rep range, practically. You can go up to 30, you could probably go even higher, you could go below 5, and there's ways to organize training to build muscle there. I think if we're speaking...
That would suck.
Most efficiently, most practically, that would apply to the greatest amount of exercises, in that spend most of your training in the 5 to 20 rep range and get close to failure. And that's what I would recommend for muscle, and it also seems to be what's good for bone. And one of the things I always think about is like the weights that you're lifting in the gym. A lot of people think, okay, I lift really heavy for bone, like really, really heavy. It's like you need to stress the bone to a certain degree, right? And one threshold I would say is much above the activities of daily living, right? That you have to expose the muscle, the tendon, the bone to something it's not being exposed to in daily living. But like, what a weight that we might call light in lifting contexts could be astronomically heavier than you encounter in daily living. So like if you take your 15 RM squat, I'm going to say that's a light weight. I'm going to say that's a light squat, right? Because in training terms, we're referencing like a ballpark of rep ranges. We're not talking about the absolute load. Like if you could squat, go ahead. What have you squatted?
My best squat?
Yeah.
Best squat is 420.
Okay. So your best squat's 420 and your 15 RM is what? I don't know. Three something.
305.
Yeah, 305. So it's like in training, we might say, okay, I'm doing light squats today. I mean, if you walked in and Louis like, hey, we're doing sets of 15 in the squat, you're like, all right, this is a cardio, like, so, but that weight would represent a weight that is relative to your daily living, astronomically heavy. And when you get close to failure, it seems to be just as good for bone. And I'm holding out that there are some, that it's not 100% that simple, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
So I'm holding out for, hey, if we do some really cool research, a lot of people like to reference the Lift More trial where they did a certain intervention with heavy lifting and jumping, and then another group trained kind of at home with a purposefully BS intervention. I say it that way because that's what the research say, that it was not meant to elicit.
Yeah.
They had one group that trained heavy compounds 5x5. Right. So they did 5x5 squat. I think it was squat overhead press. And then they did, I don't know if you've had somebody on the podcast talk about this before.
No,
so I don't want
I've not.
They had one group. So I'll be a little bit more thorough. They had one group do basically 5x5 compound lifts. And they did hanging from pull-up bar with straight legs, dropping and landing straight down, to trying to make as much noise as possible. First of all, that's not a prescription I would give to anybody ever, let alone like postmenopausal women. Drop down from a pull-up bar with straight knees and land like you're trying to make it's like, that is never a prescription I would give. Whatever. Fine. And
then they lock out your knees.
Lock out your knees and land straight and try and make as much, like as hard as you can.
Did anyone get injured?
I don't know, but I would not be surprised.
That's crazy.
And I'm sure this, I can't imagine there wasn't some ramification of doing that. They had another group trained at home, and the way they described it was a workout not designed to lead to strength and muscle growth, but it was still programs like band. It was, and again, bands can be great, but the researchers are saying it was not a program designed to, it wasn't like, oh, this is another great program that we're going to go up against this. And then they had a control group, and it's like, yeah, those people, I mean, the one thing I love about the studies, those people saw bone density increase, which we weren't sure at the time was possible. We thought it was like, oh, they were hoping that it would stall, that they would just say, okay, these people didn't lose bone. These other two groups did, and these people didn't, but they actually saw bone growth. So that's amazing. But from there, I think people have been like, oh, 5x5, got to train super duper heavy. And that's just not the case, nor is that what the study said. It did not compare heavy, light, and moderate loads, right? And the research we have on that does point to it's kind of all good. And I think in a good training program, you should periodically be exposed to that spectrum of loading. And so sets of 5 to 8, right? Sets of 8 to 12, sets of 12 to 20. And I think if you do that and you get close to failure, you can rest easy that you're doing an incredible job for bones. And so the thing is, people are like, oh, do you have to live heavy to build bone and build muscle? You do. You have to lift heavy enough. And I think with the word enough, we can just refer back to basic good training principles and get close to failure, and you're going to be good to go.
I like that. Just to clarify, that was my best squat, not what I can do now.
Okay.
That was like 10 years ago.
Okay. Noted.
Do you like wearable fitness tech like Garmin, Whoop, etc.? And what, in your opinion, are some of the most underrated metrics that average fitness enthusiasts should be tracking on them?
I'd say I'm much lower on wearables than maybe some other people might be for a general health context. I wear a Garmin. We both have a Garmin. I love my Garmin for the sake of the running metrics, which I'm admittedly taking way more seriously than I need to for health. So like the thing I like about it is not a thing I think it counts my steps. Like if otherwise I would just say it counts my steps. So we'll talk about steps in a minute, but I wore an Oura ring for a long time. So Oura ring is like a Whoop, we'll use Oura ring as like the most wearable of all wearables. Like I'm getting HRV data, I'm getting, respiratory rate, I'm getting like, it's going to tell me if I'm getting sick, it's like the wearable of all wearables. And then like
for women, it helps you track your cycle.
Yeah. I think there's some certain contexts in which, especially from body temperature perspective, super duper helpful. Totally. Again, I think it matters the context. And so your question was a bit purposefully general, but I think for certain contexts, really, really helpful. If you're a runner, get some data. I don't even think you need that data, by the way. I think you can get incredibly fit with words like easy, medium, hard. Yeah. Subjective terminology, RPE stuff. Super cool with that. Not a problem. I'm actually writing some running programs for my group program, and I will not use a specific pace. Right? I'm not going to assume everyone has some sort of wearable. So I'm super on board with RPE, subjective terminology for sure. My experience with the Oura Ring was positive. And I'm, again, Oura Ring because I got every metric I could possibly get all the time. And I learned quite a bit over the first 6 months. I learned like what things affected my sleep, what foods, how late, how close to bed, certain sleep hygiene tactics, whatever. But after a while, it became really stress-inducing and
interesting,
incredibly stress-inducing.
On it?
Dude, I would wake up and the first thing I would do, roll over, take my phone off airplane, refresh, see what my sleep score was. And what was happening is I was letting it tell me how I would feel, and so it was, it detached me a little bit from kind of this understanding of how I was feeling, and almost it was like predestined how my day would go. It got to a point where it became sleep anxiety. So it was this thing I was learning, trying to learn about my sleep to improve my sleep, became the thing that was messing up my sleep, because I'd go to bed at night. It was like Frodo. I'd put the ring on and I'd be like, start to get all stressed out because I'm like, I got to go to sleep. I got to go to sleep. Sleep score, what's my sleep latency going to be, And so it became stressing. It became the thing that was, so I think too much data, it's like body fat scales.
Yeah.
So like at some point we have to pick the data points that we think are meaningful. And what's interesting is a lot of those data points correlate with each other. So if you're an Oura ring or a Whoop wearable and you're like, I check my HRV, I check my morning heart rate, it's like those things trend together. So if you're like super stressed, you're getting sick, like HRV's down, resting heart rate's up, body temperature's up, respiratory rate's up. It's like you could pick one of those and we could use it, and not have to like triangulate this crazy thing. So I think steps is probably the most universally helpful thing, but it's still not universally helpful. I think there are some people for whom tracking steps, like tracking calories, like tracking my sleep, was a net negative, and people will do better with, hey, I'm going to walk 3 miles a day. That's going to get me 6,000 steps, and then I'm going to get my daily activities, and I'm going to be good to go. So I think, every wearable, any metric being perfect for everyone is not the case. So I do think it depends on the person. I just listened to a great podcast with Simon Hill, who's wonderful from a plant-based health perspective. And he had somebody on talking about fertility. And so they talked quite a bit about using, body temperature and stuff like that, just to help women understand their cycle more, and then understand how their cycle might indicate certain things that they should look at, either from fertility or just general health. So I find that cool too. The question I would ask is people say what gets measured gets managed. Like, one, are you actually managing it? Two, is this helping you manage it? Or am I doing it? And is this thing helping me do it? And if it is, you can say this is a net positive. But I even with tracking calories, like if you track calories enough, you might find that it went from a thing that was super duper 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 helpful to, I don't need it as much. I mean, gosh, if you, over each year that you track your calories, it should in theory become less useful, right? I mean, the curve of how useful it is should go down over time as you learn more. And then maybe how stressful it is stays static. And at some point those lines cross where it's like, well, it's still a little helpful, or it's not as helpful and it's still a little stressful. So now's a good time for me to not do it anymore. So once you've extracted what's the point of measuring something? Is to manage it, is to change your behavior. And once you've changed your behavior, you can revisit your relationship with that wearable, that measurement, whatever it is, and just say, is this thing still helping me do that thing that I set out to do in the first place? And I think I don't think anything. I think that's a good question to ask. That's all.
That's my biggest issue with HRV is people deciding everything based on what their wearable tells them. It's like, oh, you feel bad today. You got bad sleep. You don't feel good, so don't get a good workout in. But what if you actually feel great? What if you feel strong? But because you saw that, now you think I shouldn't work hard in the gym. Or the opposite, where it's like, hey, you're great, go for it. But I'm like, I'm super stressed, crazy at work, whatever. It's like, I don't feel good at all. But you're telling me I'm supposed to have a great workout today. It goes both ways. For me, I'm a huge fan of tracking steps just as like to keep top of mind. But like, it's not like if I don't get those steps, then it doesn't ruin my day. You have to be very aware of how it's impacting you mentally and emotionally. My question is, you said one of the main benefits, it was helped you with your sleep and sleep hygiene. What are some things that you've done to help improve your sleep? Yeah.
What are some things that help me? I think I will preface, I'm sorry, my wife who's listening. I apologize. I think an eye mask is an absolute no-brainer for me. Like
What's an eye mask?
It's like a mask that goes over your eyes and blocks out the light.
You know what? When I heard eye mask, I put the eye like an apple.
Got you.
I was like, oh, what's an?
Yeah. Apple made a new thing. Crazy. Yeah. I will say that this isn't a thing where I would say do as I say. Or do as I do. I wouldn't recommend it. I would experiment with things. I'm a very light sleeper. Okay. If there's light in the room, I sleep less well. If there's sound going on, like the cars going by or something, I sleep less well. Other people, my wife, a bomb could go off and she'd think that I farted and she would just roll back over. And bless her. But I prefer to have an eye mask. I prefer to have some white noise.
Same. White noise.
I think both of those have been helpful for me. I think.
Do you have blackout curtains?
We have blackout curtains.
And an eye mask?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. We Sorry, Jenna. In my daughter's room, we got blackout curtains, and because we were like, all right, we just like wanted to like give her the best in sleep environment.
Yeah.
We're not worried about aesthetics. Yeah, it's just her room, right? It's just four walls that you got to sleep in, and so we got blackout curtains. Paid a nice to get a nice pair or whatever they're called, and it's set. And it's just like I was like, no, it's not good enough. I was like, light coming in everywhere, light coming in the bottom, light coming top. My wife comes home one day and I just put garbage bags. I just have garbage bags. Dude, it's unbelievable. It's completely dark. It's like a black hole in there. And so one day we get a knock on the door and it's like a kid and his dad, and they're like, hey, like we do windows, we clean windows, we replace windows. We saw that you have like a broken window that you guys covered up with because from the outside you see the window and then you see the garbage bags, and so they must have came by and they were like, we see that you have a broken window that you guys use garbage. I was like, no, it's on purpose. Everything's actually
That's
fine.
for our
I was like, actually, I have a daughter. He's like, what? He's like, why? Well, the garbage. I was like, it's dark in there. Like, don't ask. Like so. So dark room, cold room. Yeah, dark room / eye mask. Eye mask just says, okay, I'm going to take care of the.
Is your eye mask like weighted and scented, or is it just like
no?
Just
it does have a Bluetooth option if you.
No
want.
way! Oh, yeah. It is like
it
sort
has
of an eye thing.
If you wanted to like listen to something, you absolutely could.
Really?
Yeah. So sometimes if I'm taking a nap, sometimes I nap better if I like listen to like a podcast or something like.
It connects to your
phone.
And does it speakers just like
in the ears? Yeah.
Oh, you have put stuff in the ears.
No, it has speakers in it. So when you have the eye mask on, it goes around your head.
Oh,
and then where the ears are, it'll play something that you'd like
cool.
if you'd like it to. There's gonna be somebody out there who's like mad about like 5G and like the Bluetooth getting into my brain. For the record, I'm not worried about that. And so if that's something, if you're like, hey, white noise, like inject it in my ears.
Yes,
like, okay, you could do that if you wanted. Cold room, definitely. Your wife was like, oh, Jordan, we have fans if you want. And I was like, I don't need a fan. I get in there. I was like, I definitely need a fan. Not that I need a fan, but I'm like, I like it cold.
Yeah, same.
So that's I think cold. I think dark. I think a profound thing for parents listening is having some sort of wind down routine. So if I could say, okay, optimize your room environment, cold, dark, white noise if you want it, and then have a wind down routine. Like there's got to be something between the stress of your day and the beginning of the attempt to sleep. And
what's your wind down routine?
Yeah, it's a lot of people are like, oh, I'm waiting for him to say, stay away from screens. Like I'll get to screens in a second, but just something parasympathetic, something that is where you breathe a little bit deeper, something where you detach a little bit from the things that you were thinking about all day. And for any parent with young kids, this is cleaning up the house. This is cleaning up the fucking whirlwind from the day, right? And so that is actually for me. I'll put a podcast on and I'll listen to something purposefully not work related, purposefully not stress related. I'm a big soccer fan. I'll put on a soccer podcast. Something just totally not have to do with my job. Do the dishes, pick up the stuff. Take a shower, talk to Jenna. We've done reading, listen to a podcast, all of that stuff. We've gotten to the point where TV has been an okay thing as long as TV's not the last thing I do before I go to bed. So we'll watch TV and then we'll say, okay, we're going to read and the minute I read a book, I get 1/2 paragraph in and I'm asleep anyway. So, it's funny. Something I ask on my podcast is and I'm going to ask you now for fun, is what's something unscientific or something that's not so ironclad evidence-based that you do that you're like, yeah, I take a chance. I feel like it might work for me, but it's not something I'd shout from the rooftop and give because it's just, we don't know.
Yeah. Like what do you believe, but can't prove type thing?
Yeah. I wear blue light blocking glasses. So things that we make fun of people.
You?
Yeah, totally. So at night, I'll put those red glasses on.
Okay.
There's a mechanistic rationale for why that might work, but there's not like the standard I would hold myself. We're talking about bone density. We're talking about plant proteins. We have no research on like fucking red tinted glasses like make you sleep. We don't. But anecdotally, I could watch TV with the brightness on the TV down and feel like this is less stimulating for me.
Is it really?
Yeah, I find it a little less stimulating. But like we're on a podcast, so it's going to be viewed. Tops 500 people are going to listen to this. But yeah, I find that funny. Where I'm like, that's not something I'd recommend. But I think sleep is something where it's worth trying a bunch of shit and seeing what works.
I like that.
And so like there are times where you're like, yeah, take a chance on it. And if you feel, dude, anecdote and placebo is a hell of a drug. Like,
it is.
So if something even has I'm not saying, dude, I'm not saying spend a lot of money on expensive, not evidence-based procedure. I'm saying if you spend $20 on a pair of red tinted glasses to take a chance on it and it helps a little bit, kudos. That's great. That's awesome. Don't spend a bunch. I'm saying whatever those things are, you're taking a chance on. That should be something that's like low risk. You know? Yeah. What's your answer?
Man, I was trying to think of it, and so the issue,
or something you don't do that you know is really good for you.
Oh, I get horrible sleep.
Okay.
I get terrible sleep. And it's funny, like everything that you were saying, like, so we do blackout curtains and white noise, but like before bed, I'm doing something that absolutely stresses me out right now, which is playing chess against other people across the world. And I get so competitive.
Okay. Do you actually find it stressful though? Or do you find it?
My heart, boom, boom.
That's okay. But do you find it enjoyable?
I love it.
To the sense that like it's still a bridge from your other stresses of the day. It's different, it's different stress than the day. And but something you look forward to, right? Something you enjoy doing. So that still could count,
Yeah, but I get...
It's a workout.
And if basically my thought, and this is not healthy, my thought process is I can't go to bed until I win. So sometimes I'll lose 4 in a row. And I'm like, and then I get more angry. I'm like, fuck, I can't go to sleep until I beat someone. And I'm definitely playing against a 12-year-old in Romania
100%.
who's just schooling me.
Yeah, totally.
And then they'll be talking shit. And then
you have a headset? You have a headset?
No, it's just like the text, a message on chess.com. You can message them. And sometimes it's sort of like when you're a kid and you're playing on like Xbox Live, you start talking shit. There's less of it on chess, but it happens. And like,
is it more formal?
Yeah.
Art thou a piece of poop? It's like
the way I try and like just not get sucked into it, but like if they talk shit, I'll just agree with them. I'll be like, yeah, that was really stupid. I'm not going to be like, fuck you. I'll be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely my like my sleep is terrible. I have horrible, horrible, horrible sleep hygiene.
How do you rationalize it, knowing that it's important? Or it's important. I'm putting in air quotes because, like, I think we all can decide what we find important.
Oh no, it is wildly important. It is like indisputably, without question, very important. It's more just I work out late at night, and like that for me is when I like. You wake up at 4. Fuck that for me, dude. Like, there's no way. I am a night owl. I like being up late. It's the time where I can just relax and just chill and do my own thing. I can spend I love being in the gym. So like I could spend 2-3 hours in there uninterrupted, and I'm not like working out the whole time. I'll just take 10 minutes and 15 minutes, whatever. Sometimes I'll sit, I'll do a little static stretching and play chess while I'm static stretching. But like, I can just chill, and then I can go in and I can eat and relax. It's just my me time for the day. And I'm essentially, what I'm prioritizing is time for myself rather than sleep. And that's it. And I know it's not good, but it is what it is. So I don't rationalize it because I'm very aware that it's terrible.
Well, you are rationalizing it. And in a way of like, I understand that I could have an hour of sleep, or I could have an hour to myself. And I've made a decision, for better or for worse, that I think reflects what's going to make me feel my best, even if there are trade-offs. Yeah,
that's it. The other thing of I've wanted a sauna for years.
Yeah.
Like I think there is some research showing that there are potential benefits of the sauna. There's not enough of it where I'm like, oh yeah, this is absolutely a big rock, like definitively worth spending thousands of dollars on to get it and put it in your house. But it makes me feel so good. That's my thing where I'm like, yeah. And there's enough research to where I can sort of like stroke my own, like confirm my own bias and be like, oh yeah, absolutely, this is definitive. But realistically, objectively, the research isn't so overwhelmingly clear. But like that for me is, I love how the sauna makes me feel. So like that for me, I'm looking at getting a sauna right now.
Yeah, sauna's great.
Do you have sauna?
I don't. But I think sauna, when I say sauna's great, why did I say that? I think I agree with the combination of potential benefit and actual enjoyment, and that's what makes me think sauna's great, because I too enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah,
and can grasp at like a study that looked at people doing a protocol that I'm not doing, but I could just, the headline says sauna's great, and and tell myself that that's worthwhile. And I would agree with you. I think that the research, I'd actually go one notch up, and I think the research is more likely points to you feeling good about doing that for health, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I know there's like obviously the potential cardiovascular benefits, potential like neurological benefits. Like there's research on all of that. For me, aside from just making me feel good, is you get hot super fast and then I can stretch. And what's nice is like you can get right into a very deep stretch very, very quickly as a result of it. So that's another reason why I like it.
Can I poke into chess
Yeah,
for a
please.
sec? I have been feeling lately that some of the things that have helped me improve my relationship with fitness, and then by extension, like my body, and by extension, food, has been diversification of interests. And to some degree, the running, even though it's also like fitnessy, but it's not an aesthetic pursuit for me. And so it's improved my relationship with my body because it's a thing I do for a deeper meaning, let's say. I feel like hobbies, I don't want to overly project and like assume that people are all falling into a single bucket. But I feel like if there's people out there listening who are feeling, wow, I'm in a place with my lifting and my fitness where I'm very focused on how I look and it's creating a bit of underlying stress, I would ask myself, by the way, fitness, I'm going to do a couple caveats. I don't want to miss them, which is like fitness can absolutely be the thing that you do for yourself that makes you feel good, that it makes you feel confident. It's your time. I mean, it is all those things for me too, totally. But I think I feel in myself the most mentally healthy. My relationship is the best with my body and food and fitness and my exercise. When I also have other hobbies that I care about, when I'm diversifying, like if I'm deriving all of my good feeling about myself, my identity from my exercise, I do find that it's almost like I'm putting too much on it. It's too much riding on it.
Yeah.
And I've found as I've gotten older, I think I'm not saying being a father is a hobby, but I'm saying having other stuff in your life that you care about, is really powerful. If you're to just take I'm putting all of my emotional eggs in this one basket of lifting and getting the results. And am I getting stronger? Am I changing my physique? If we could I see a lot of it with my clients and myself. It's like, I've asked them, it's like, what other things in your life bring you joy? And it's not that fitness can't, it should. And it can be, people find fitness and give anecdotes of it changed their life. It's just been this amazing thing. That's totally a thing. I love that.
Yeah.
If you are in that position where you're like, it's become a bit of a stressor, I'd like to improve my relationship with my body and food. It's like, all right, well, what else do you care about? What else, if you say something slightly hyperbolic to make a point, it's like, if the only thing that's bringing you joy is the way you look, then it's going to be a more stressful experience exercising. And so I think of chess as like it's nothing to do with fitness.
Yeah.
You stunk at it most likely at first,
bad.
right? No, at first, whatever, wherever you are on your journey now, you stunk at it at first. But me giving you a massive lead into this question, like, do you feel like it's been a thing for you that's like, it balances me out. It makes me care a little bit less about this, which makes me improve my relationship with my fitness because it's not the only thing that I'm focused on 24/7.
I mean, I think it's I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is for me. I started chess not because I was like, oh, this is like sounds like a good hobby or like I'm specifically interested in chess. I started because I was like, I'm on my phone a lot and my go-to is Instagram, and Instagram is horrible for my mental health. And so I was like, if I'm going to be on my phone anyway, I might as well do something else that like is better for my dopamine, better for my brain, better for my mental emotional health. So that's why I started playing. And then I was like, oh, this is actually really fun and very it's a skill that I enjoy getting better at. So that's how it started. And so now it's like, if I'm on my phone anyway, great. Now I just have something that is actually better for me. That's why it started. My relationship with fitness is honestly like, I'm incredibly blessed. I have an amazing relationship with fitness. If I get a great workout in, awesome. If I don't work out, cool, whatever. Thank God my health is good. Like everything is fine. My relationship with fitness is I have zero negative emotions with it whatsoever. It is only a positive in my life. And to get to this point, I went through many disordered relationships with food, with exercise. To your point, fitness can be that thing, but for many people it will become the stressor. I've also noticed this with performance-based goals, which I think are the superior goal in fitness. When they love fitness so much that if they go in and they don't hit a personal record or they aren't as strong as they were the week before, now like they're livid. Like their day is ruined in the same way that maybe previously, if the scale spiked up, their day was ruined. If they weighed more, even logically, they know that it doesn't really matter. If you're not hitting a PR, you're not as strong as you were the week before, all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what is the point? That's an unhealthy relationship with exercise. So for me personally, my relationship with fitness and nutrition is wildly good. I if you told this to 18, 19, 20-year-old Jordan, you'd be like, there's no way, because I was so obsessed with food. I was in the throes of disordered eating. It was horrible. So chess for me is, I became acutely aware that scrolling on Instagram was destroying me mentally and emotionally. And I was like, just putting my phone down. I'm very, like, with the girls, with the kids, great. Phone's down. We're not looking at it. If I pick up my phone, they're like, yeah, we're calling Nana. That's
Sprinkle
it.
party.
But a sprinkle party last night, dance party, exactly. The dreidel song, sprinkle party, whatever. But when it's my me time or whatever, just pick up the phone and play chess, and rather than scrolling Instagram.
I had a big Catan phase, so I definitely know that.
What is that?
You've never played Catan?
No. What's that?
It's a board game.
Okay.
It's like, man, if you're a Catan like faithful, you're gonna kill me. It's like a more strategic. Still, it has a little bit of luck, but more strategic. I'd say more strategic version of like Risk, I guess. But,
okay.
But slightly more. If you're like go all in on Risk, you can find like where the intellectual stimulation is. But yeah, Catan's amazing. All right,
I've never even heard of it.
Off air, we'll get into a Catan thing. So
Catan.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Is it an app you can play it on?
You can play it on an app. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Similar to like chess, so you play people around the world, and yeah.
Really?
Just as like an intellectual pursuit of, I'm on my phone anyway. Could I be doing something productive?
And it's strategic?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you play chess?
Game. I don't play chess, but I see people in my life getting into chess, and I also, from a cognitive health perspective, would love to, like fitness, diversify some of my cognitive interests. I think, if I just had Barbie Bowles on the podcast, I don't know if you know her, cognition dietitian. She's amazing. Yeah. And we were just talking about Alzheimer's. And, small tangent. I have a certain gene mutation that makes me like 12 times more likely to get Alzheimer's.
What is it called?
I'm an ApoE4 homozygous.
Okay.
So whatever, we all get 2 copies of an ApoE gene. You get two from one from mom, one from dad, and there's like 6 different combinations of it you can have, and I have the worst combination, which like makes you 12 times more likely to get. But it's not deterministic. It doesn't mean you absolutely will get. Plenty of people are me that don't get Alzheimer's. Plenty of people have the best combination, do get Alzheimer's. Yeah. But it makes me acutely aware of that. And one of the things we were talking about is training your mind, and you can do that in a couple ways. You can go super deep on a topic, and that's intellectually stimulating. But there's also an independent variable of novelty that's super helpful. So just trying something new. And so technically, like getting better at chess, new moves, new ways of thinking, that is novelty, right? You're learning new things in that same lane, but doing a new thing. And so I'm like, I don't play chess, but like, however, I like board game. If you've played board games with me, I take it just a little, I'm that guy who's taking it a little bit more seriously. And so I like the intellectual side of some of those things. So I see people playing chess, and so I am intrigued. Yeah.
Dude, we have Alzheimer's in my family, like numerous people, like grandparents, all that. It's very prevalent in my family. I need to get checked to see if I have these genes. To the question of like something that you can't prove but believe, I would imagine there is research around this. I just haven't dove into it. I'm assuming you have dove into it, so it might be worthwhile. I know a lot of people play Sudoku and chess and all this stuff. Like, it's wonderful. It's great. One of the things that I strongly believe, and I have not looked into the research, is that staying very active within your community is likely one of the best things that could potentially help prevent or diminish the likelihood of, or the severity of. I would love your thoughts on this, but like at least from what I've seen in my own family, is that when people start to isolate themselves and start to lose a sense of purpose, start to stop being active within their family or within their community, that's when it gets really, really bad, really, really fast, which is one of the many reasons why I try as hard as I can to be an active member of my in-person communities, because I feel like it's just wildly important. Never mind the benefit of the community and your family and all of that, but for your own like mental brain health, there's something about that purpose that I feel like is very important from that perspective.
Yeah, I think social isolation is a risk factor for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And I was just grabbed my phone to see if there's a really neat PDF that looks at and attempts to kind of break down the different risk factors of Alzheimer's, and they attempt to give specific percentage points to things that matter a lot. I wanted to see if it was written as social isolation, or lack of community, or I just wanted to see what they gave the percentage point for. But we can check that another time. But yes, and even if you just look at like, if you just correlate to like the blue zones, and if you just look at and even if you don't do any of that, it's something you feel.
Yeah.
You're feeling that. And so I agree with you. I feel that. I definitely agree with that for sure.
Let's move on. I want to ask a couple questions. This one, I'm about to drop a bomb on you, all right?
Yeah.
Seed oils. Are they really as bad as people say? Or is this more just fitness industry fear mongering?
Yeah, it's just it's just fear mongering. It's just a mechanistic extrapolation. I think, people will find an interesting mechanism. Maybe it's something in a petri dish. Maybe it's something in nature. Maybe it's something in an animal study. That sounds cool and it sounds interesting. Or it's a story about how something's made, and they will speak to that thing. Oh, if in a petri dish this happens, or seed oils are made or used as engine lubricant, and like they sound scary. It sounds bad, but people don't ask, and what they should ask is, okay, I hear you. Those are interesting stories, right? Of like, that they're more, seed oils are omega-6, have more omega-6s that are more easily oxidized and they're pro-inflammatory. Like that's that pathway. Like you can spin me some truth there. That's cool. There's a follow-up question though. It's like, what happens when I eat it? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a food you eat. You should be interested in what happens when you eat it, not what happens in a petri dish, not what happens when we heat it repeatedly under circumstances that you would never experience or encounter in home cooking. It's like, people are like, if you heat it to like this degree for this many minutes and then stop and then heat it and then stop and then heat it and stop and then heat it and stop and heat it, see, something this bad happen. It's like, first of all, that would happen with any fat source. And second of all, that's not something people are experiencing in home cooking. And you could argue maybe that's something happening in fast food areas. But if it's news to you that eating a lot of fast food is bad, and if you think swapping out seed oils for beef tallow makes any difference, it doesn't. In fact, it's a net negative. And so there's a lot of this mechanistic appeal to nature, appeal to petri in vitro studies or in animal studies. The question you need to ask is, what happens when I eat it? And when you look at studies, when people eat it, it's a neutral to positive effect. And if you, it's crazy. People with the highest linoleic acid content in their blood have the best health outcomes. Mm-hmm. If you look at swapping out saturated fat for an omega-6 fat or whatever, a seed oil, we'll just say, including not people like, oh, it's just olive oil's carrying that research. Like they do research where they take olive oil out of it, and canola still scores amazingly well. Do I think what oil you cook with is in the top 10 things I'd tell a person on the street what to do if they wanted to improve their health? It might not be in the top 10, but it is a fact that swapping out a saturated fat like butter, ghee, tallow for canola oil, olive oil, technically, whatever you can call a seed oil, it's a plant oil, is a net positive. Mm-hmm. It is factually a net positive. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of appeal to nature. The irony is like beef tallow was also used as like jet engine lubricant once in our history as well. And so this is just like completely like, what happens when I eat it? And if you look at studies where people eat it, nothing bad happens. As it contributes to overall calorie intake, like every food can, not great. If you eat a diet of a ton of oils, like that's a high concentration of calories and high concentration of fat. Like I'm not banking on that being, if I'm describing like the healthiest diet, it's not like, oh, you should chug canola oil. No, you shouldn't chug any oil. P.S. Oils can be a perfectly healthy part of a diet, and having olive oil and some of these oils, great, no problem. I'm just saying if it's making up a vast majority of your calorie intake, it's probably not a good idea. So it's not complicated. It's not complex. It's not debated by those who prioritize the question, what happens when you eat it? Mm-hmm. It's not debated. It is debated by, people will send this by this guy, whatever. It's a narrative review. And if you look at every study in the narrative review is just an opinion piece. Mm-hmm. And every study in there, it's like rat study, in vitro study. And it's like, if we don't have human studies on something, if I ask the question, what happens when I eat it? And we're like, we don't know. Okay, you want? I'll speculate based on mechanistic stuff. Fine. If we don't have any research in humans, show me the rat data, and I'll be interested. By the way, even then, you're not just saying that's what would happen in humans, but that's what the point of that research is. It's supposed to be hypothesis generating, thought provoking. It's supposed to help us make good human studies, which we have. Mm-hmm. We have them. So I think the war on seed oils is just a greater war on, we don't need to go so deep on it because it can go deep. The pipeline of seed oils to like masculinity, the discussion on is just, it's a direct pipeline. And so it's not manly, it's not meat, it's synthetic. It's made in a factory. Somehow something that's made in a factory is automatically bad. Something happens in nature is great. You just go eat poison ivy, like great, fantastic. You're going to be fine. So it's just an appeal to nature fallacy. And it's people who want to extrapolate on mechanisms while ignoring the human outcome data that we have. It's
number one, that was an amazing explanation. Thank you. Number two, when people use that fear-mongering imagery of like, yeah, they use it as lubricant for engines and all this stuff, the first thing I say is like, water will make metal rust. It's not happening inside your fucking body, though. It's just because they used it for one thing doesn't mean that has any impact on what's going on, which is to your point. Like, what does it have? What happens when you eat it? Let's look at that data, which we have immeasurable amounts of, just huge amounts. And you said, changing someone's type of oil wouldn't be in the top 10 things. What would be in the top 10 things for me, though, is saying, let's keep your saturated fat below like 10%.
For sure.
Yeah. Like that is that's like a top 5,
Yep. That's
calories,
fair.
Protein. But like, it's not that you were wrong. I'm like, that's how important this is. It's like, listen, whatever oil you want, if you want seed oils, if you want whatever, but like also let's be aware of your saturated fat intake.
But also eat according to the food pyramid with a ton of beef and butter. So like simultaneously prioritize red meat and butter and also keep your saturated fat below 10%.
Let's talk about the food pyramid. So that, I know there was a lot of different opinions on that. My issue with the food pyramid, they had the red meat on there. I'm fine with that. They had the butter on there. I thought that was ridiculous. Like, why are we putting butter on there? But for me, the biggest issue that I had with the food pyramid, because overall I didn't hate it. Like it wasn't terrible. The biggest issue that I had was the framing of it, saying that this is the last one was so terrible and so bad. Now we've completely I'm like, this is the same fucking thing. Like, this is basically the exact same thing. You haven't really changed anything. And that, for me, was the biggest issue. And extrapolating to major issues in our country right now is just the division. That's just stoking more division. Is like, you haven't really changed anything. And you put red meat on there. I'm fine with whatever. You put butter on there. I think that's stupid. There's no reason to put butter on there. I wish there were some like more plant-based options for plant proteins and whatnot. They even said in the notes, like, keep saturated fat below 10%. Granted, it was buried. Like, I'd like to have that be more prevalent. But it was the framing of it that was just annoying to me. That was like it's the division. It's so fucking obnoxious.
Yeah, I agree with you insofar as if I just look at the pyramid, while I might have issues with it, I certainly have a greater issue with the propaganda attached to it of we're almost like propagating the idea that they did change a lot, right? Yeah. That a lot has changed. Mm-hmm. When in fact it's like, oh, we're finally telling you to eat mostly whole foods. Like, the fuck you are. Like, like if you just go look at the dietary guidelines from previously, it's like, eat a diet of mostly whole foods.
Yes.
Like whole minimally processed foods, eat according to your culture, eat within your financial means, eat according to each life stage. Like those were all in the guidelines. Those are all fantastic. The best things about this guideline were already there. Mm-hmm. I'd say the only thing that was not there that is there now, all right, two things is that the protein recommendations have gone up. So they went up to 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. Which is funny because like the average American's at like 1.1 gram per kilogram. So it's not like just because the RDA is 0.8 doesn't mean that that's what Americans are eating and that, now we're going to get their protein up. And also Americans, we don't have a chronic disease issue because we have a protein deficiency. Mm-hmm. Like getting your protein up a little bit, protein doesn't do that much for muscle growth compared to the training and the sleeping and the calories.
Yeah.
So like if everyone just starts eating 1.4 grams per kilogram protein, like nothing will change about the population health at large, other than maybe that that reflects a dietary change that overall makes it, you put more protein on your plate, maybe that displaces something else you were having, and maybe there's something there. But this is like, having another 30 grams of protein doesn't change anybody's life. But I think that is the correct updated recommendation, 1.2 to 1.6, like we previously talked about. I think they're probably a little bit stronger, if I were to be totally fair. I think they're probably a little bit stronger on ultra-processed foods. Their terminology is probably a little bit, it's more frontline. So, okay, fine. But I even think, as of right now, what the classification of ultra-processed foods is problematic. It's not problematic. It's just not perfect. We just talked about bean pastas that are just incredible. Ultra-processed foods, Greek yogurt. I mean, ultra-processed food, protein powder, ultra-processed food. And there are other ultra-processed foods like that are perfectly healthy packaged foods, like Kevin's, or like these sorts of prepackaged, technically ultra-processed foods that like are that people need, that help people, that make cooking easier for people that are busy. And so just looking at what an ultra-processed food is and saying we're not going to eat those anymore, I think that that's a little complicated, but very generally speaking, we're not waging war on that at the moment. The red meat and butter stuff, I think having some amount of unprocessed red meat in your diet, provided you're under 10% of total calories from saturated fat, provided you're also eating a wide variety of plant foods, is going to be fine. I think that person's going to be fine. I think that if I were sitting with a very staunch pro plant-based person, they'd say, yeah, I might not disagree with that, but they probably are even healthier swapping that out for plant protein. And I'd say there's data to support that, but I'm not waging war. I'm not stopping somebody on the street and they're like, hey, I have a little bit of red meat, but my diet's amazing. Like, and I'm below 10%. Should I worry? I'd say you shouldn't worry. The propaganda of the previous food pyramid, it starts with the idea that the previous food pyramid made us sick in some way.
Yeah, correct.
Like no one followed the previous pyramid at all. And that is like, not with this pyramid, but if we have another updated pyramid, eventually I will be happy that people don't follow it. Nobody followed it. Factually, statistically, nobody followed the previous food pyramid. And to be fair, like we haven't used the food pyramid in almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And if you look at my plate, first of all, if you look at my plate rocks. My plate is so applicable. It is a picture of a plate divided into a way that you can actually put your mind to and say, okay, I'm going to divide my plate up in this sort of way. You can even buy a plate that reflects my plate. It's like grains, fruits, vegetables, protein, and dairy. It's way more applicable than this obscure food pyramid thing that kind of just tells me that meat's good. And it's like kind of all I can take from it from just looking at it. And so, no, we didn't use the food pyramid. Nobody followed it then. We haven't used it in 15 years, to be technical. And this thing's way less applicable. It's way harder to apply this food pyramid. Okay, one more thing. I think they went even further on making your grains whole grains. I think they said all of your grains should be whole grains. Yep. So it used to be about at least 50% are whole grains. So, okay, I'm with that too. I like that as well. Full fat dairy, they went ham on. They're going crazy on full fat dairy, which I don't know if that's a hill I'd die on, but it's part of this slow unraveling of war, the air quote war on saturated fat.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion that, so I have some knowledge on this, but I want to say there's going to be someone out there who might have an amendment to what I'm going to say. But basically what happens is there's researchers that are independently hired to come up with recommendations for the food pyramid, and then we give that to RFK, and he basically didn't use any of the information that was given to him by the people who are like contracted, that's their job to do. And I have a feeling that they left that 10% saturated fat as a safeguard of like, hey, no, we're still level, we're still a balanced take, but that's going soon. That's going to be gone soon. That to put red meat and butter at the top of the food pyramid and get rid of the saturated fat recommendation would have been too much and too much backlash. So we got to they're like, what do we do? Do we get rid of that, or do we put a big steak on the pyramid? Right? Do we put a big steak on the pyramid and bury this recommendation in there?
Yeah.
And so I think that was their way of saying, getting their foot in the door of getting rid of that altogether. Yeah. I think then it will be problematic. So yeah, I'm with you where the framing of it is where I find it to be most problematic. A lot of people are like, oh, people don't follow the food pyramid. The reason that I want to believe that still, but the more we make the food pyramid reflect stuff people would rather eat, the more they will follow it. Like people will love that meat and steak and butter's back on the table. Like people will love that. So I bet you more people would prefer to follow this food pyramid. And so, I just think that, like, as much as I want to rest easy to be like, let them do what they want, no one's going to follow the food pyramid. I do think if the food pyramid says meat and butter and bacon is back, then people are going to be like, yeah, great, I'll follow the food pyramid. So they might actually follow it, because before it was like, it was grains and fruits and vegetables, let's say, at the top, let's say. So there's like, people were less likely to be motivated to do that because people like steak and butter and beef and all that stuff.
I think it's just the people who already love steak and eat it all the time will be more able to justify it and be like, cool, I'm already doing this. Yeah. Whereas I think people who are not eating a lot of it are less likely to go out and be like, I'm going to now make this a huge part of my diet. I will say, so I see merits to both in terms of the food pyramid and my plate. I love the imagery of my plate.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get better than that in terms of it's super applicable. It's great. One of my issues with my plate was it did lack specific guidance on specific foods. And I think, as you know, as a coach, people are like, well, can you give me examples? That was one of the things where I was like, I would love if you actually laid out more specific examples. They had some other things where it was like, I believe it was like pizza counted as a vegetable because the pizza sauce.
Yeah.
Which was like, that's ridiculous, guys. Come on.
Yep.
So I think my issue is the fitness industry has become politicized. I can immediately tell when someone's like MAGA based on their diet, and I can immediately tell when someone is like super far left.
You eat plants, you're on the left. You eat bacon, you're on the right.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. And then even looking at people's critiques of whether it's the new food pyramid or my plate, if someone is unwilling to admit my plate also had issues, I'm like, all right, maybe this is a political bias that you have going on, which it shouldn't be. Like, this should not be a political bias.
The my plate, I know you're not saying this, but for my own pursuit of clarification, that I'm speaking also with what you're saying, which was the applicability of my plate, the imagery of it.
The imagery was perfect.
But yes, as a totality of guidance, yes, sure, not perfect either. Yeah.
So that for me is in my mind, I would love if one administration can use both. How about we take all of these wonderful food recommendations and then put it on a fucking plate, and maybe make like, here are some breakfast plate options. Here are some lunch plate options. Here are some dinner plate options. Here are some dessert plate options. Like, why don't we just use both? But they'll never do that, because then it would be admitting the quote unquote other side had a good fucking idea, which is why this one completely reframed this as, we are completely revamping this and this has never been done before. It's like, what are you talking about?
If you go to Google Images and you just type in examples of my plate, I agree with you 100% that as a totality of guidance, it wasn't perfect for sure. But like the images that come up, you're like, this is great. Like, if you look at the images, you're like, these are great plates of food.
Yes.
I'm like, I was like, this is fantastic.
Agreed completely. Yeah. We're gonna go sort of circle back a little bit to a couple things on muscle growth. We got to get some glute questions in there, because people always ask the glute questions. In your opinion, what are the top 3 best exercises for glute growth?
Yeah, I think if you want to grow your glutes, you should think of it as I need to do some sort of hip extension pattern, so some sort of glute bridge, some sort of bridge or thrust. Now, the bridge or thrust, there are going to be people that put that at the top, because the thing that the hip thrust and the glute bridge do well is the glute bridge and the hip thrust are hardest at the top, where the glutes have best leverage to work. So it is hard where the glutes are in charge. And so they're going to say, that's what makes an exercise good for growing it. It's called whatever. It's like a neuromechanical matching, whatever. I don't want to give too much light to it, but it's like, hey, we want to find exercises that are hard where the muscle we want to target has the best leverage. That's where you can put a hip thrust at the top. And you'll have other people who say, okay, yeah, that's interesting, but it only challenges the glutes at a short muscle length. There's not a lot of tension in a lengthened position, and so that you have the stretch crowd coming in and saying, oh, the hip thrusts are garbage because there's no tension in the bottom. I'd say if you want to grow your glutes, you should have some sort of hip thrust, because if you do an RDL, some people, again, we'll talk about technique modifications, but let's say you do an RDL, some people are going to get quite a bit of hamstring stimulus. It's a little bit more complicated to execute. So quite a bit of posterior changes, upper back, lower back as well. If you do a lunge, some people are going to get quite a bit of quad, quite a bit of adductor. If you do a hip thrust, I'm not saying it's 100% isolation exercise, but the way the glute bridge or the hip thrust shines is it is more of a sniper. It is definitely the vast majority glutes. And you won't, if people are like, oh, I do leg press, I always feel it in my quads. Like, oh, I do RDLs, I always feel it in my hamstrings. Like, okay, like make sure we have a bridge in there because it's more targeted to just the glutes.
You've changed your mind on this. I was looking at your social media post and you had like a top 10 and you put hip thrust at 6.
It's so funny. I put it at 6. It's so funny. Can I just, we have to take a small tangent. We're going to come right back to this, is that when you made that shout out to me, because we didn't make this first podcast.
Yeah.
I had many people come to my page, and I have 3 pinned posts at the top of my page, and they're all giveaways. They're all giveaways so I can steal your email address and I can just email you all the time. No, I don't do that. But you have to give your email address and then you get the free giveaway. And all 3 of them are like, I get a little bit of traction on them, but this was the first time I had thousands of people come to my page and start commenting. And this was happening at the airport. And I realized, I was like, I got to check and see if I still agree with this. It was like 5 years ago. Those are 5 years ago I made them. And I was like, holy shit. And sometimes people come in, they do it, but this was like thousands of comments. And I'm like, holy shit, I got to check if I still agree with all this. So I get on the plane, immediately purchase the Wi-Fi. I'm sitting there in my seat. We haven't taken off yet. And I am remaking all of the giveaways. And I'm on Canva, I'm on MailChimp, and the guy next to me I'm like chomping down some food and crumbs everywhere. And I'm like elbows like this. I'm like, just give me a sec. And I am remaking those PDFs. And not night and day changes, but like, it's funny that in the video, I probably said, oh, I'm going to rank hip thrusts a bit lower. And I don't even know if that would change where I'd put them, but that would be, it has a unique benefit. So if you are trying to maximize something, that it's going to cover a base not potentially covered by something else. So I do rank it it's worth your time for sure. That's so funny. And I went to the protein one, and I wrote that like 5 years ago too. And I was like, I'm underselling plant protein in this PDF. And I was like, immediately went back and I was like, edamame. I was like, tempeh. I was like, let's get these up there, And so it was just super funny. I was like, and right as the plane took off, the stewardess came around. She, can you close your laptop? I was like, I sure can. I was like, I knew that I had done a good job and updated all of them. But I was texting Jen. I was like, I'm panicking. People are getting this giveaway. It's going to be a bad image on me. It doesn't reflect my current values on stuff.
So funny.
But it worked out. It worked out well. But so I would say have some sort of thrust. You could get away with doing a 45-degree hip extension.
I love those. Yeah.
If you were to, again, I'm going to oversimplify some things to make a point, but I'd say the bottom half of that exercise is a little bit more hamstrings. The top half is a little bit more glutes. If it was your goal in life to build the biggest glutes possible, you'd do something like modifying your range of motion to make it more glutes, or you'd band it to have an ascending resistance profile so it's harder at the top where the glutes work more. You do a 1.5 rep, where for every rep you do 2 reps at the top, right? You skew something about the way you're doing it to bias more glutes. I don't get too fussed. I look at the 45-degree hip extension as like one of my favorite exercises, but like I'm okay with it being a mix of glutes and hams and low back. Yeah. It's fine.
Do you ever do it with a barbell on your back?
I haven't done barbell. I've done some Zercher though, and
okay.
I've enjoyed
Nice.
Zercher. Yeah, I've enjoyed doing some Zercher. I haven't done it with the bar on my back. I suspect that would be a bit more, it would end up being a bit more lower back.
Yeah.
Just because you have to extend your spine a little bit more for sure. But yeah, huge. I mean, I haven't been doing, my concession was when I started running, I found that my RDL day was making me so unbelievably sore. It was, my lower back was sore. By the way, all good way. I love RDLs. But at some point I was like, oh, this is like a slight interference with peak marathon training, whatever. So I swapped it out for the hip extension, and my goal has been to just get crazy strong on that thing. It's been super duper fun. So I'd have some sort of short position, some sort of hip thrust, some sort of thrust or bridge. I'd have some sort of hinge, right? So some sort of deadlift or an RDL. And then I would have squat patterns, like a lunge, split squat, a leg press. And if you can do those 3 at some point in your training once or twice a week, then I think you're good. We could talk through like how much volume. I think people get amped up about that conversation quite a bit. It's like, how many sets should I do? But from an exercise selection standpoint, I think have a thrust, have a hinge, have a squat. Those are primarily for your glute max. It's the biggest part of your butt. But you probably don't want to neglect what I would call the 4th category, which is like abduction-y stuff, which is just like something where you kick your leg kind of to the side. And so that could be the seated abduction machine. It could be some sort of kickback where you're going on an angle. You could do lunges in a way where you have a little bit of where you orientate your femur and in relation to your hip to lengthen the glute med a little bit. I don't get too fussed with that. I find that to be just over my threshold for for
take it.
yeah, just for like a marginal benefit. I'm like, hey, if I want to train my glute med, I'm just going to do something abduction-y, right? And I'll do my, I'll do more just lunging and split squatting and squatting. But if you have some sort of bridge or thrust, some sort of hinge, some sort of squat, and I say squat, but split squats, lunges, leg presses, step ups, all a squat technically by the nature of how those exercises are done. But those are all glute max, and I recommend you have that fourth category of something abduction-y, something where you're kicking your leg to the side, and there's ways to do that at home. You can hold a plate on your side of your leg and kick your leg up. You can actually do that technique to work the standing leg too. I think I like that better. You could do a little Jane Fonda laying on your side, and we do like side lying abductions. Dude, totally fantastic. You could, if you're at home, we could do some stuff with bands around the knees a little bit, right? Sometimes bands can be a little bit harder to quantify exactly how much weight and all this stuff, but still good stimulus. But if you're in the gym, the abduction machine is like quite literally made for that. So I would do the abduction machine. So I would check those 4 boxes. Volume is an interesting chat we can have. I think people will often say you got to do 10 to 20 sets per muscle per week. That is from a study. I don't know. I don't know if people have come on the podcast to talk about this.
And even if they have, it's okay.
That is referencing a RAM. I did a talk at a coaches summit several years ago, and so that's why this information is very top of mind for me. Aram. And so that 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week quote, which is like it's the same as it has gone into fitness folklore, right? That's like everybody will say that quote, just like everyone said, you got to eat a gram per pound, right? They became just like the staple things you got to do. That came from a study in 2016. It's a meta-analysis. They looked at a bunch of studies, and they grouped studies into 3 categories: people training with low volume, which is like 1 to 4 sets per week; another group of people training 5 to 9 sets per week, and then 10 or more. And they found that the people training with 10 or more sets per muscle group per week gained the best. And it went from I've several problems with that, and you've asked me a question that I will be on a tangent for a bit here. That is true. That group made the best gains, and that sentence has turned into I need to do that much to build muscle. And it's true. That group made the best gains. But what about the other groups? What about the people training with 5 to 9 sets, again, per muscle per week? And what about the people training 1 to 4 sets? And there are several issues. I'll talk about this one. We'll go into another one. The people training with 5 to 9 sets made 84% of the gains that the people training 10 or more made.
Jeez.
The people training 1 to 4, I think they made 64% of the gains.
Oh, wow.
1 to 4 sets per week.
Crazy.
And so if you look at that on a curve, like, I could do 5 to 9 sets and make 84% of the best available gains. Sign me up. And of course, this is untrained lifters. Everyone made gains. We could talk about, I wouldn't fuss too much with volume changes over the training career, but a conversation for another day. The second issue, again, amazing study, by the way. I don't have an issue with the study at all. Amazing. It's almost always how it's been communicated and implemented, into how does it trickle down to like regular people trying to get jacked? The second thing is that volume was quantified by what I would say is indirect volume. So if you did a set of pull-ups, that counted as back and biceps equally. So one check back, 1 check biceps. If you did a leg press, it counted as glutes, hamstrings, and quads. By the way, the hamstrings don't work. So we're making we're accentuating circumstances here. If you did a dumbbell press, delts, which by the way, you have 3 heads of the delt that do wildly different things, but delts, pecs, and triceps, all equally.
Interesting.
So the way to get to 10 to 20, it's actually less than you think, right? And so I've had, again, listen, my group program, we use what I would consider low to moderate volumes because we are in I'd like to get a little bit more efficient gains rather than maximal gains. And I every so now and then have a very lovely person who says, hey, your program's pretty low volume compared to this reference. And so I'll get on Zoom and I'll be like, hey, this is what my program is. If you count it like that, we are north of 10 on probably everything. So the way that was counted, and when you look at, so 5 to 9, when you factor all that in, 1 to 4 is like 1 or 2 workouts a week. 5 to 9 is like 2 to 3 workouts a week. And then 10 or more is like, 3 to 5 workouts a week, roughly in that 45 to 60 minute range, let's say. And that's not that, like, this is the best gains, not the only gains. It was tracked in a way that you're probably not tracking it. You're probably not doing that. You're probably counting back pull-ups for back.
Right.
Or, and so this has been a known limitation of the study. And so recently there was another meta-analysis by Robinson, et al, the mega smart dudes at data driven strength, mega smart, and other people as well. And they said, okay, we're going to classify in 3 different ways. We're going to count with indirect volume, just like they did, 1 and 1, biceps and back equal. And we'll do fractional sets. That's what they're going to do. So a pull-up would now be 1 set for back and a half set for biceps. And then they said, we're only going to count direct sets. So we'll measure in 3 different ways and see what the graphs look like. Not to get into too weird, the summation of that literature looks like, the most efficient and potentially, actually the summation of that research says that the more volume you do, the more you make, the more gains you make with a diminishing returns. Like what we knew, the shape of that graph is asymptotic, where it's just like you get less and less and less and less and less with each additional unit of volume. And it looks like, again, where is the efficient place where we can get a vast majority of the benefits? It's in the 3 to 8 direct sets per muscle group per week. Again, people will come to my group and say, can I do more? And my answer will be the same. It's like, if you are progressing, I might not rock the boat. If you're making progress, and I'd love to actually talk to you a bit about what that progress means, like what rate of progress would reflect like I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
And so I'd start in that 4 to 10, if you have a slightly more ambitious goal, 4 to 10 direct sets. And so if your goal is glutes, maybe you have, 3 to 5 sets on one day and 3 to 5 sets on another day. Hitting the muscle more than once per week is advantageous. And so to bring this glutes conversation back to it, I'd have that hinge, or I'd have that bridge. I'd have a hinge, I'd have a squat, I'd have something abduction-y. I'd train the glutes twice per week. And I'd start with something like 8 to 10 or 4 to 10 working sets total per week, and just see how it goes. Are you progressing? Are you super sore? Is your performance going up? And go from there.
Makes total sense. I like that. It gives you so much leeway to decide for yourself what you want. And also it's almost circling back to the beginning of the conversation around like, all right, how much time am I willing to spend? What are my values? And then what results do I want? But like, if you could get a significant amount of the benefit from doing fewer sets and spending less time in the gym, that's amazing.
The study that has come out and just continues to lower the bar of what's possible with how much training, I will butcher the author's name, but basically they looked at trained people, because a lot of people are like, oh, this untrained people doesn't apply to anybody but beginners. Is basically they were trying to look at, does going all the way to failure or training with 2 reps in reserve lead to more muscle growth? Do you have to go all the way to failure? And what they did was they did 2 30-minute workouts per week. They did 1 set of 9 different exercises. So they did like a wide, I'm going to make it up, wide grip, pull down, push up, leg press, leg curl, whatever. And they just did that workout twice a week. 9 total working sets, 9 exercises, 1 set each.
To failure or to almost?
1 group to failure, yep. 1 group to RIR.
Okay.
And they were trying to see who would make more gains. And that was the goal. There was no difference between groups.
That's crazy.
And so I'd say that there was a very slight trend for the failure group. And I would stand by that. If you were like, hey, I'm going to train 2 times a week, 30 minutes with like the least volume ever. Like the less I'm doing, the less risk and more upside I have to going harder. Maybe I hedge that and I train a little harder. But if someone's like, hey, I don't feel comfortable going to failure, I'm just going to go 2 RIR. Great. Yeah. Amazing. You're good. You're likely within where we need to go. And as long as you keep trying to get a little stronger, you're fine. But that was what the paper was trying to do. They're like, see, I think even the title is like, repetitions in reserve, like performs just as well or whatever. But like both groups made gains training 18 working sets per week for the whole body.
Yeah.
A 9 working set on Monday and 9 working sets on Thursday. That's it. Both groups made gains. And it's like, oh, that is a crazy low bar for a trained person to make progress.
Yeah.
Compared to what you might have thought, let's say. That's very low volumes. And incredibly low.
What I love about this is like, it's an objectively pretty shitty program. Like from the perspective of like, it's not very well rounded. We're just going to do like the most basic compound. Let's just get, it doesn't seem like there's like a, if I was, would you ever design that program for your group?
Hilariously, it's funny that we're going to talk about it. I actually would if we were training twice a week. If you're training twice a week, if you're training twice a week and you're saying, okay, so the less you do, so on a spectrum, the less you do, generally, very generally, the harder you can train, you should train probably, right?
Yep.
Also, the less you do, the more I'd say I'd lean on frequency. So if you're like, hey, I want to do the least possible, what should I do? I'm like, make sure you do at least twice a week. Like hit each muscle at least twice a week and train hard. So I might do 1 set for back, 1 set for chest, 1 set for quads, 1 set, so that I can also get 1 set for quads on that second day.
For muscle growth.
Got
it. Okay.
I probably would do that on paper. I will tell you, I have flexed that logic, which I stand by the logic in my group,
Yeah.
and it has practical downsides. So on the spectrum of less sets per exercise and more exercises,
Yep.
there's rationale. If I'm only going to train twice a week and I need 2 times a week frequency, I actually have to train each muscle on both days.
Yep.
It can't be like, oh, I'll do quads and glutes and here I'll do hams and calves.
Right,
It's like,
right.
that's legs twice, but that's not quads twice. So I might do that, but it can get real. It can be like, hey, we're doing 15 exercises, 1 set both days.
Yeah.
And on paper, you can stand behind it. But in practice, I can train that way sometimes, but I think that it just has a downside of, I have too many things I have to do and too many machines that I have to get and who's on a machine.
Yeah.
And, sometimes my first set's not a good one and, I want to get a second one in. And yeah, but I think if you were a person training twice per week and you wanted to get better results, I would generally not do 2 or 3 exercises, 3 to 4 sets. I would generally do a few more exercises to hit each muscle twice a week.
Yeah, I have so Inner Circle, we have a 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week program. And for me, for the Inner Circle, it's never been about, especially like the monthly programs, it's never been about like build as much muscle as possible. That's just never. It's just being athletic, being strong as hell, feeling very good. So our 2 times a week, it includes more sets. They're like a little bit longer workouts, but it's when I'm looking at that, like that program where it's like leg extension, leg curl, lat pull down, I'm like, man, I would love to see some more variety and movement just from like an athletic perspective.
For sure.
But from a muscle growth perspective,
Totally.
it makes total sense.
Totally. Yeah.
One more thing before I have a couple of final questions. One more of the bigger topics. Oprah said there is an obesity gene, and that gene causes you to overeat. True or false?
False as it's written, true as it's hopefully implied. There is not a single deterministic gene that decides anything about from a behavioral perspective. Well, that's not fair. I don't let me stick to what I know about. Somebody's going to tell me there is such a gene. When it comes to obesity, or body fatness, body fat level, there is not a single gene. Oh, you have that gene, you're going to, I just mentioned that Alzheimer's gene. I have a gene that makes me way more predisposed. It's like less than 1% of the population. I'm 12 times more likely to get Alzheimer's. Like, that doesn't mean I'll get Alzheimer's. And so are there genes that, I mean, I'm just going to, the kids would say crash out. That's what the kids say. I'm going to crash out, which is like, we understand that we're all different and that we are different based on nature and nurture, right? How genes, nature, and nurture, upbringing, environment, experiences. And we understand that genes impact everything, right? You have more chest hair than I do. Like, I have more head hair than you do, like genes impact greatly when one will lose their hair, right? How tall you are, how naturally gifted you are at everything. I mean, I can't even make a list because it is literally everything. Your genes predispose you to certain things. We understand that these things have have heritability to them, that certain genes make us more likely to have certain outcomes. But all of a sudden, not when it comes to eating behaviors, not when it comes to exercise related things. All of a sudden, genes don't matter. All of a sudden, it's just, why isn't everyone a neurosurgeon? Why isn't everyone on the moon? Why isn't everyone a pro basketball player? Yeah, nurture too, but nature. We are predisposed for certain things, and we all understand that. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, when it comes to eating behaviors, we don't want to believe it, and we want to put everything on the individual and have it be 100% personal responsibility, and it's just not. You have genes that make you have a higher baseline level of hunger. You have genes that increase food reward. So your reward sensor in the brain lights up more. You have satiety, that increase and decrease satiety signaling. You have genes that predispose you to a certain body fat level. If anybody's ever looked up the dual intervention point model, where like your body does have a bit of a set point range that it would like to be in, which is also not fully deterministic, but it matters. Genes play a huge role in your eating behaviors, in your, people talk about the runner's high, like how the kind of reward you get, the sort of the endorphins you get from exercise varies a ton. Some people don't get those endorphins. Everyone's all talking about GLP-1s. Like, we have all different baseline levels of GLP-1 production. And if you look at the gene that she's probably talking about is FTO gene, one of the characteristics of people who have that gene is they have lower GLP-1 production naturally. So like, what are we talking about? We choose, it comes from a baseline of fat phobia, and we just don't want to believe. We want to believe that those people, it's two things. It's fat phobia, and it's like, there's probably a better word for this, but it's it's not survivalism, but it's like people want to believe that they've done this thing purely out of their own hard work.
Yeah.
And they're in denial of their own genetic advantage and privilege, and such that they're like, I didn't need this drug, for example. Or it's like, yeah, you know, we can have a greater talk about who needs the drug or whatever, these drugs, but to deny that genetics play a massive, massive, massive role, you know, and they've done, there's really cool twin studies where we look at twins and just, it's fascinating research we put in the show notes, and it estimates that the heritability of obesity is somewhere between 40 and 70%. So not 100, right? Not fully deterministic, not zero either. Like, you know, you can put twins in different environments and they will develop similar body fatness at a rate of roughly 40 to 70%, even with different environments. So it fires me up, mostly because I think the fitness space is full of people that have crazy genetic advantage here,
yes,
and are unwilling to admit it.
Yeah.
I have a massive, when my clients who take GLP-1 medications tell me how they feel around food, I say it's amazing. I felt that way every day of my life. They're like, every single day of my life. They're like, I can stop eating. I'm like, unbelievable. They're like, I don't think about food all day long. I'm like, amazing. I'm like, I don't either. They're like, I can eat and be full and it not lead to weight gain. I'm like, great. Like, me too. You know, I've been that way. When they describe how they were and how they are, I'm like, I've been that way every day of my life. And, you know, do I absolve myself of anything that I've done well? Like, do I just say, oh, it's also been determined for me? I'm like, no, I give myself, it's also my job. It's like I was in sports, like everything about the nurture side has predisposed me as well to having favorable outcomes in terms of body composition. It's like, yeah, man, it's like a rich kid with a trust fund saying that he made it all himself. You know, it's like, I want to be, I think, okay, there's people who are, will benefit from the rhetoric of it's all personal responsibility. I want to be fair. There are people out there who, I'll see a post by someone who's claiming that, and I'll see people in the comments who are like, yeah, that helped me lose 100 pounds because I really took responsibility. So I want to respect that acknowledging that there is an element of personal responsibility is a fact. There are things in your control. And frankly, the things in your control, in a redundant way, are the only things you can control, right? We can't control genetics. But can we just be a little bit more compassionate and say, this is going to be harder for some people than others. Mm-hmm. You don't compare yourself to someone else. It's going to be harder. Not everyone can maintain the same level of leanness as comfortably as somebody else. I think a lot of people think, if I'm at energy balance, if I'm at maintenance calories, I'll feel good. I'm giving my body what it needs. But if you're at maintenance calories, you've been shredded before. You could be at maintenance calories, not feel good, right? And so just giving your body enough food doesn't necessarily, like when we look at, let's say bodybuilders are a good example of nothing in real life other than an extreme dieting, right? And so what we'll see is, if you ask any bodybuilder, they will lose females their menstrual cycle at different places. Men will lose their libido at different places. And that all reflects, in some ways, the body fat your body would prefer to have. And that's different for everyone. And so, yeah, I get pretty fired up about it, but not because I think you should not do anything about it and it's just my genes, you know. There are things you can do, and you should sure as shit audit your own behaviors and see what you can do. But completely dismissing genetics is it's not, you don't hold that belief in any other place in your life, but you're holding it here for, I don't know what reason. And I go to a bit of fat phobia and a want to feel like you did this all on your own, when we all have different head starts.
You know, you had said, can't we just be a little bit more compassionate, which I'm all for. Like, I think we could all work to be more compassionate in general. For me, it's not even about compassion, though. This group of people that objectively lacks compassion, these are also often the people who are all about talking about objective truth. They're like, facts don't care about your feelings, right? They'll say it all the time. It's like, cool, so let's look at the facts. Let's forget compassion for a second. Factually, certain people have certain advantages and disadvantages. Certain people, this will be easier and harder for. I mean, it just so happens that in this instance, you have an advantage to make this easier for you. Doesn't mean it's necessarily easy. Doesn't mean you haven't put in a tremendous amount of hard work to do it, but also objectively understanding that someone else has it far more difficult. That's a fact. So facts don't care about your feelings about how hard you've worked. Facts don't care about your feelings about about what you've been able to do. Objectively, factually, let's look at the data. Let's look at what's actually going on. it's much more difficult for this person. So if you could be more compassionate, great. I have a hard time thinking that you could muster up that compassion for whatever fucking reason, whatever happened to you. Factually, objectively, this is indisputable that some people have it significantly more difficult. And by the way, let's think about this. A lot of the people who are shredded year round or get to very, very lean levels, let's say that this is a person who it is very difficult for them for whatever reason. For the people who if they're doing that, it's very difficult to actually do that and not have a disordered relationship with food. It's very difficult to actually live a very healthy lifestyle. So a lot of these people, that's the only thing they can cling to. It's like they'll do anything they possibly can to justify the suffering and disordered eating that they're putting themselves through, which leads to a lack of compassion and hatred towards people who aren't willing to do what they are doing to themselves right now. I remember when I was in like severe eating disorder, a period of my life, which was severely disordered eating, I would look at people who could eat a banana nut muffin and just be so jealous and just be so angry. It's like, do you not realize it's like 700 calories in my head? I'd be like, how the fuck are you doing that? And I would get angry. And then it would be like, I would be able to justify in my head, oh, it's just a lack of self-control. But I was actually jealous. I was jealous that I couldn't do that. So then how do I get around my own jealousy? Is I'd make them out to be the evil one or the lazy one or whatever. It's easier for me to justify that feeling through making them out to be lazy, evil, whatever, than it is to me to confront my own issues and say, oh, maybe I should fucking chill a little bit. And maybe it's okay if I gain a little body fat. The compassion is great, but let's be objectively honest about this. And there's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, this is going to be far more difficult for them. And maybe we shouldn't, try and force this one methodology or this social ideal down their throat.
There are people who are saying that these GLP-1 medications are exposing people who didn't want to do the work, and that's bullshit. Obviously, I think it's exposing even more people who didn't ever really want to see people succeed. They just like wanted to see them suffer, and like if you're like, it should make you incredibly. I know these drugs aren't perfect. The implementation not perfect. The application is not perfect. We know that.
Nothing is.
No, we know that.
But they're fucking amazing.
Totally, and that's a conversation we can have. But I think that there's a bit of, if you're a coach and it's your job to really help people, and you claim to want to help people, and you claim to view improving body composition as a way to help people, like, these drugs can be fantastic. And so for you to, I just almost feel like it's not exposing people who didn't want to do the work. Okay, some people, there's of course things like that. Just like taking steroids doesn't automatically mean you aren't a hard worker. Taking this drug doesn't mean you're not a hard worker. I just think it's exposing people. I'm like, are you mad that people are getting this thing either without your coaching or that you had to do on your own through the right way? And I will sympathize with that, by the way. I will sympathize with that. If you're somebody who's lost weight without these drugs and you see other people doing it, like, I understand the human emotion immediately to say something that comes up in you that's like, those people have it easier than I had it. But like, you for the sake of the human race should want that. Why would you want someone else to, not take a certain medication that can really help them? And I think that there's a moment of sitting with that and being like, I understand that need. It's like watching your kids with like laptops do things way easier and you had to write it out by hand. It's like, we want these things to progress in a way that helps more people. You shouldn't want people to have to suffer if they don't have to suffer.
You just brought up, I don't know if it was inadvertent or not, but like the steroid conversation. Isn't it funny how it's like all these dudes who are on huge amounts of steroids are saying people on GLP-1s are cheating? Is that not one of the most wild things? Like, you have these dudes who are taking Tren, Test, D-Ball, whatever, and they look at someone who's just taking a little bit of a GLP-1 to help them improve their health, and they're like, oh, you cheater, you lazy. It's like, are you out of your fucking mind? The mental gymnastics you have to go through to justify that in your head is crazy.
Well, I think there's quite a bit of threads between those two examples of, if you have someone who's like clinical hypogonadism, they have low test, like taking testosterone, it has a spectrum of uses, and one of the more clinical uses, and realistically the only clinical use, is getting somebody from low testosterone to an appropriate level of testosterone. That's like a person who has obesity, has struggled with it their entire lives, who has done a lot of work. And yes, it's not as simple as a blood test like it is with testosterone. It's like we could do a simple blood test or a gene test that tells me, oh, you can never do this otherwise. But it's very similar where it's like people who really struggle with this thing take this GLP-1 medication and it levels the playing field. Like I feel very strongly that my clients feel similarly to how I feel. I think there's versions of doing this that could give you supernatural appetite suppression for sure. But I feel like there's the use that I find most helpful is a person who really needs it, and it brings them to baseline so that they can do those healthy habits that they've always wanted to try and do. And then there's the like, maybe I don't, there's, again, I don't get to ever, I would never say who does or doesn't need to do this, or who should or shouldn't do this. But then you have the people who take testosterone, who have normal testosterone to get supernatural testosterone. And the people who are like, and they're looking at people who like are taking medication saying they don't need it. I'm like, neither did you, like your test was fine. And so, yeah, I find that to be, I mean, that's, there's just no way to take a person like that seriously. Like that's just a complete meme. If you're like a super juiced up, by the way, no, you do what you want with your life. You want to take steroids, you do what you want with your life.
Go
but
for it.
Certainly this, you can't possibly look at this and think it's those people are cheating in some way. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. I have 3 more questions. All right. First one, if you're looking at your entire life in training, not as a coach, but as a lifter, what was your favorite time period in your own workouts? Like when you look back fondly, like what time period was your favorite where you had the most fun?
I can think of 2 moments. I can think of right when my only current daughter was born, and my wife and I spent a lot of time in the gym together with her, and the 3 of us and the dogs, and we had a garage gym in North Carolina, and we had the door open. And just a lot of like playing with the dogs between sets, and my daughter and the bouncer, and we have so many videos, and just warms my heart. Just like so much fun. Like you said, like not on a time limit. We're just out there for, an hour and a half or something, just having a good time, like family time. Totally the first one that comes to mind. The second one's probably late high school, early college. No structure, terrible. I have people all the time like, can you help my son? He's a 16, 15 to 20. Can you get him on a program? And I'm like, I could do that. But like, there's also a bit of, hurling some shrapnel with the boys, like hurling some weight around with the boys or the girls, whatever, with your friends, that is unstructured, and a bit of, fucking things up a little bit safely, not being stupid. But I look back on that and just no structure, way too much time in the gym, but a ton of bonding and fun, and memories of like the old guy in the cutoff sweatshirt who's like, he's been there for like 3 hours, only done bicep curls. Like I look back on that very fondly, just mostly because like you had nowhere to be. You just had like nowhere to be, and so you were just in the gym, and it was fun, and you would do another set, and you would do back, and then you'd show up to the gym the next day, and your friends, you're like, what are you doing? And he's like, back. You're like, yeah, all right, yeah. Like, you did it yesterday. It's like stupid, but I definitely think of those 2 moments. Yeah.
I love those like late high school, early college days. That was so fun. Just like in there for 3 hours, you've got nothing to do.
Yeah.
Just going to like inevitably doing 21s or 7-minute abs.
Thought creatine was steroids. Dude, I used to think like Animal Pack. It was like a multivitamin pack. I used to take it, think it was like we'd go to the dining hall and get like fruit juice, because this is when creatine was like, oh, you got to pair it with like fast acting card. Just stop by and get grape juice. Like it's like just buying into stupid shit, but because it was fun, Yeah.
And at least for me, I would imagine for you, like we didn't have smartphones then either. So like when you were just there,
no videos.
You were just there.
Totally.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Tripods.
No tripods. 2 more questions. First, what are you scared of?
I'm sure there's many answers, but I think it's in the vein of being most honest. I'll tell you what first came to mind, which is reconciling my own pursuit of fulfilling my potential individually with being the best dad I can be. I can't even imagine how much time I had before I had kids.
Crazy.
How much I just said crazy. I'm not like, some influencers are like, oh, don't take advice from non-parents if you're a parent. It's like, no, fuck that shit. But I definitely feel a little bit like I had so much time to like work on my business and grow it. And I'm not saying I can't grow it now, but I do have that fear of how far do I push? How much more do I need? How much more money do I need? How much more members do I need to feel fulfilled? And how much will that take me away from other things I want to do? I want to fulfill my potential, but I also want to spend as much time with my family as possible. It's like the most important thing to me. So will I ever be content? I had a chat with my dad. My group went through there's times you work in your business and times you work on your business, right? And so you're like in the business making things better. And that doesn't necessarily give you a bunch more members, but it's like making the process, the product better. And I had a year of doing that where we made some big upgrades to the group. I'm super pumped about them, but like the growth stalled and that triggered something in me. I'm like, how do I feel about that? Like, do I need to make more money? Do I need more members? Is the progression itself the fun part, right? Like same with training. It's like, can I do this for the love of the game? And just, is this enough? Of course it's enough. It's more than enough. I never thought I'd be able to do what I'm doing. Will I be content? And so I fear that, I feel optimistic about it. So when you ask me, am I afraid? I'm not deathly afraid, but I do think about that a lot. I'm like, hey, like every minute I spend growing my business is minutes I could be doing another thing family related. And I want to find that balance. And will I be, if you could sign me a paper, you hand me a paper, say, Jordan, you're going to make this much, you're going to have this much of a group for the rest of your life, I'd sign it. But then why not be content? Like, and I'd say, great, like, sign it, go spend time with my family. Then why not act like that a bit more? And get a bit, just adjust my feelings on the rat race of everything, the comparison game, the who's got this, more followers, more this. Like, at what point am I going to settle and say, am I going to be fighting for more and more and more until I'm done? And again, is that how I will extract the most fun out of this? Or is it happier for me to take it a little less seriously? I don't know.
I love that. That's super honest, man. What are you excited about?
I'm excited about two things. Of course, I'm so excited to watch my girls grow up. I'm so excited to everything, just getting to know them and having maybe a positive impact and setting a good example and just so excited for everything. And I don't want to cry on podcasts, but like, it's just, I didn't think I'd be a dad. I didn't think, if I hadn't met Jenna, I might not have kids. And she's just been opened up a whole new side of me that has been everything to me. And by opening that up, I have changed a lot. And I'm excited about, like, if you had asked me, did I have that capacity for change before, I would have been more pessimistic about it. But I don't know what's coming. I don't know who I'll become. I don't know what interests I'll have. I don't know like what things I'll want to do. And so I do feel like excited about just going a bit more with the flow and what feels right to me at the time and trusting that a bit more. And if that leads me into different directions, then going with it. And if that leads me to whatever, just trusting that a bit more and not thinking, well, you're in this lane and you got to stay in this lane and you got to only do this thing and you're this kind of person, and just kind of breaking those shackles a little bit and being open to change.
Well, I'll tell you, brother, you're an incredible man. Your girls are blessed to have you. I'm very excited for you and Jenna. God willing, everything will be great with your next daughter.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you for coming on, man. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, Instagram's a great place. Jordan Lips Fitness. I answer every DM. And you can find me there and just shoot me a message.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you follow Jordan. As you can tell, he's an incredible, incredible man. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Have a wonderful week. Talk to you soon.